Chapter 246, Emergence of Dragons. Chapter 246, Emergence of Dragons. Drifting Flowers City, at the entrance to the stone room behind Drifting Flowers edifice. Grandmother, with Iris and Peony Overseer, were waiting. Under the warm sunlight, among the refreshing chirping, they were the only ones whose faces showed no change, their eyes fixed on the stone door. Rumble. With a heavy sound, the heavy stone door opened and 4 figures emerged. The first wore a silk cover, but her delicate figure and her graceful poise couldn't be hidden. Her eyes were enough to make anyone in the world flustered and intoxicated by her beauty. And behind her were 3 old women. They looked calm but clearly excited. Chu Bijuan's brow jumped and she sent 3 silver needles at the woman. But the woman only lifted her delicate hand casually. A sudden chill came then and a wall of cold mist formed. The 3 needles rapidly lost speed and ended up falling on the ground into frozen pieces. Grandmother sighed in praise, "Qingqing, you've greatly improved as if reborn. If not for neglecting cultivation for the past decade, you'd be no weaker than the other houses chosen in the esoteric debate." Indeed, this person who came out after a long 5 years of seclusion was Chu Qingqing. She was no longer as weak as she was 5 years ago. She was like a towering glacier, worthy of the title Ascending Ice Phoenix. "You're too kind, grandmother. It is all thanks to our 3 venerables helping day and night with my training. I am grateful, venerables." Chu Qingqing slightly bowed at the 3 old women behind her, and so did grandmother and the overseers. The venerables spoke, "It is the least we could do as Drifting Flowers Edifice's venerables. Qingqing's talent is remarkable, only needing to stimulate her potential. She did the rest." The 4 once again bowed, and the venerables closed the stone door with a wave. Chu Bijuan walked to Chu Qingqing and looked her up and down. "8th layer of Profound Heaven stage, good. We will show the world the power of Drifting Flowers Edifice in this esoteric debate." Chu Bijuan's eyes shined. Iris Overseer smiled, "With Qingqing, we will show them who Drifting Flowers Edifice is. Let's see them try to take women lightly again." "Haha, true, but," Chu Bijuan frowned, "we must also make our standing clear. We must strike at Regent Estate's arrogance in this esoteric debate, or they will strike back at us many times harder. Yes, that is why, Qingqing, you must work together with Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Sword Marquis Abode, our 2 allies. I have talked with them and have reached an agreement." Iris Overseer said, "As 4 of your opponents, Pill King Hall, Hell Valley and Mary Woods, they have all sided with Regent Estate. The 7 noble houses are now split in 2 factions. This is why the esoteric debate this time will be so much crueler, so much more savage." Chu Qingqing frowned in worry. Regent Estate's monster Huangpu Qing Tian is hard to deal with already. And now that we are 3 against 4. Haha, don't worry. It will definitely be 4 against 4. I heard that the Luo clan will be joining in as well. They were but a 3rd-rate clan before and must be planning on standing abreast to us by passing the first 2 rounds of elimination. I wonder though who'll they be sending? Grandmother considered. Chu Qingqing's eyes lit up. Luo clan will come. Already clear on who Chu Qingqing had her mind on, grandmother shook her head. It's unclear if he will be there as well. He's been missing for 5 years already. It is a bad omen. Not even his clansmen know about his whereabouts. So the support we can expect from the Luo clan is minimal. What, he's gone? Oh, what? Chu Qingqing didn't care if the Luo clan helped them, and was only worried about Zhuo Fan. Grandmother shook her head. Such deep love is like a poison, making one forget even oneself. Iris Overseer sighed. I heard he was last sighted where Lightning Canyon appeared 5 years ago. Then he vanished. We can only assume. Chu Qingqing trembled and shot down that idea. Impossible, he will be fine. Peony Overseer cursed instead. That foul and ungrateful prick, how does his fate have anything to do with us? He didn't value your feelings, not one bit. Chu Qingqing's eyes grew hazy, her heart in a mess. Grandmother spoke gravely, Qingqing, whether he comes or not, I hope you will keep your distance from him. I met him once. His ambition is unhealthy, much greater than we can imagine. Such a man is very attractive, but also one who can easily harm women. In his heart, women are burdens. Beings he finds no value in. For your own sake, don't get too close. Chu Qingqing was silent, alone with the bitterness in her heart. But I can no longer go back. In another part, deep in Sword Marquis' abode, there lay a stone gate on the verge of opening. 2 youths came from within, Xie Tianyang and a youth with white temples. His eyes were cold like a blade. There was also the on and off flicker in his eyes, but if one looked, he'd feel two sharp swords stabbing him. The pain would be too much to keep one's eyes focused on him. He was none other than Sword Marquis Abode's leading talent, Xie Tianyang's elder brother, one of the 6 dragons, golden armored sword dragon Xie Tianshang. Tianshang Tianyang, you're out? Xie Xiaofeng laughed and patted their shoulders. Xie Tianyang snickered, Dad, I've mastered our house's entire martial art, flowing space's 9 forms. I can now marry Ning'er. Xie Tianshang gave a curt nod, walking past Xie Xiaofeng into the training area. I'm off to practice. Later. Xie Xiaofeng felt helpless watching his sons. The eldest was a martial fanatic, always thinking about training, never getting close with anyone. While the second was a love-struck fool, the only thing on his mind was marriage. If he hadn't been smart and tricked him into lifting the sword for her, he probably never would have had. Xie Xiaofeng sighed, it'd be great if they were combined into one. Jian Suifeng came from behind, Abode Lord, don't worry, Tianyang's temper will smooth over time. As for Tianshang, he only has one person in mind. He won't stop until he defeats that person. You mean the Regent Estate's monster? Xie Xiaofeng sighed, forget it, I don't want my son to tangle with that monster. It will only bring us shame. Jian Suifeng nodded and sighed. In another part, in the rear gardens of Veiled Dragon Pavilion, a youth in fine green clothes was taking a walk and showed an infatuated look. Ah, the air is so much better outside. Bliss. Eldest young master. Long Jiu rushed over anxious. When did you get out? Why wasn't I informed of this? If you'd be throwing some congratulatory feast to ruin my mood. It was better to come here and get some peace. The youth's smile turned odd. By the way, Uncle Jiu, what of little Kuei and little Jia? How come I don't see them? Haha, they're hard at training. AI, when will they come out? The youth asked. With a vague chuckle, Long Jiu said, eldest young master, you've been in seclusion for a decade. There are many things you have missed. If you'd have witnessed the Battle of Drifting Flowers edifice, you'd have been as stimulated as them. What do you mean? The youth rose an eyebrow. But Long Jiu only smiled in response. Kids these days won't work hard without a well-placed stimulus. Similar occurrences happened in the other houses as the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix came out of seclusion to join the esoteric debate. Especially in Caged Dragon City, people gathered outside a secret room on the mountain behind Regent Estate. As the stone gate moved, 2 people were made known to all. One was a calm youth, his every step at ease and firm. His incredible air made even the profound Heaven Elders step back in shock. Behind him was High Venerable Huangpu Fenglei with pride in his eyes. High Venerable, any progress? Huangpu Tianyuan asked. Huangpu Fenglei caressed his beard with a smile. I oversaw his training personally. He is the pinnacle in the world, second to none. High Venerable, that is hardly the case. The youth's cold tone came in rebuke. My current self isn't taught on, only my nature. And father, your words are pointless. Shuddering, everyone watched Huangpu Tianyuan speak with such crass and lack of manners. Yet all nodded. This is the air of a lord. Taking a deep breath, Huangpu Tianyuan chuckled. Seeing you so confident, I won't ask any further. I believe that in the esoteric debate you will bring shock on everyone's faces. Let them see that Regent Estate's power shrouds the 7 houses. Father, you're wrong again. I'm not confident, just my nature. I do not need to amaze them for Regent Estate to shroud the houses. My very arrival turns it into reality. The unification of the 7 houses, that impossible matter, will be completed with my ascension. Huangpu Qingtian was calm and someone rushed to put a golden cape over his shoulder. His natural grace and demeanor looked down on every single being. Even Huangpu Tianyuan felt anger inside. The youth was clearly unfilial. But this was Regent Estate, and they trained themselves to have lordly flares. It didn't matter if the father and son fought over the estate lord position. What mattered was the ability to have it. One's leadership applied to the entire house, even to the estate lord. Lung Wuchang came to Huangpu Tianyuan and bowed. Eldest young master, it is good to be confident, but one must also be wary in every taken action, lest you'd meet with utter failure. Oh, and where are you going with this? Huangpu Tianyuan glanced by. Smiling, Lung Wuchang said, a fiend had recently appeared in Tianyu by the name of Zhuofan. It pushed back the 7 houses and killed dozens of our elders. Even the second young master fell victim. I heard he will be joining in the esoteric debate. Please remain cautious, eldest young master. Humph, second brother was worthless. He got what he deserved, killed by a nobody. As for those elders, they are even bigger fools. But for that kid to kill so many and still live, that makes you the biggest fools of all. Are you telling me he's as invincible as that Gu Santong from 300 years ago? Huang Puqingtian snapped coldly. Lung Wuchang shook his head. Gu Santong is a monster seen perhaps once a millennia. But he is not like Gu Santong. Gu Santong may be unbridled but gullible. While that kid's treachery runs deep, expert at gathering people to stand by his side. The reason why we failed to get his head is because 3 houses have formed an alliance with him. He is also relying on one of the 4 pillars, war god Duguzhantian, and even the imperial family is protecting him. Our hands were tied. Oh, a schemer you say? Shaking his head, Huang Puqingdan said, fine then, since you're all so worthless, I will personally end that man in the esoteric debate. Eldest young master, please exercise extreme caution. Every single one that has underestimated the kid has died in agony. Lung Wuchang bowed, but his words earned a snort from Huang Puqingta. Sir Lung, I admire your talent greatly, but please do not lump me together with you fools. By the way, once I have that kid's head, the title of estate lord. Oh father, isn't it about time for you to step down? Trembling, Huang Puqingyuan's face was a mask of darkness and rage. This was his good son, the strongest talent in the 7 houses, the head of the 6 dragons, one that at this crucial time, was only thinking of how to snatch his father's position, the heaven-shaking dragon lord Huang Puqingtum. Chapter 247, The Biggest Underdog. Chapter 247, The Biggest Underdog. June 22, 2021. Index. 5 months later, at the imperial capital, the emperor was reviewing reports in the study. Suddenly, a black figure knelt at his side. Hands cupped in respect, black figure spoke, Your Majesty, Dragon Cloud City's report on the Luo clan has come. Deliver. The emperor spoke but didn't spare the man a glance. The man offered the report with both hands. The emperor took one glance at it and threw it back into the man's face. Every damn report over the past 5 years has been either all quiet or all normal. The Luo clan is set to make waves in the esoteric debate, but where is that bone-tempering stage kid? How the hell are you even getting your intelligence? Please soothe your anger, Your Majesty. I've been at fault. The man was on the ground in a blink, shaking like a leaf. The emperor caressed his beard, but the fire in his eyes was like a smoldering volcano. Oddly enough, he soon restored his calm. Yet this only worked to instill greater fear in the man's bones. Is there anything on that Zhuo Fan? The emperor's tone was cold. The man shook his head, Nothing, Your Majesty. And what of divine dragon Gu Santong? The emperor followed. The man was on the verge of tears, Unknown, Your Majesty. You've been searching for 5 years but can't find anything about Zhuo Fan. That rampant guy Gu Santong must still be stirring trouble somewhere, and yet you can't even find a trace of him. Humph, why am I even raising you worthless mongrels? You can't do anything. The emperor's eyes flashed with bloodthirst. The man kowtowed 3 times, pleading, Your Majesty, please quell your anger. I am incompetent. Please spare me. Out. The emperor flicked his sleeve. The man kowtowed 3 more times and bolted, Thank you, Your Majesty, thank you. The emperor took a deep breath and lifted his head. Gu Santong and Zhuo Fan are missing. Can this piece of information even be trusted? Did they perish in the Lightning Canyon? It's fine if Gu Santong is gone from this world. It might actually be a blessing. But Zhuo Fan? He is yet to fulfill his task. His death would be such a waste. But this boy brings too many surprises. He lifted up a wretched third-rate clan to one that is brimming with power. A miracle really. But I just can't tell if the Luo clan can still complete the task without Zhuo Fan, ha ha. The emperor chuckled quite cheerfully like a sly rogue. Just then, a guard fell to his knees before the emperor. Your Majesty, divine dragon Gu Santong has returned. What? The laughter came to a grunting stop and the emperor sighed, understood. But his good mood was gone. Ah, the worst trouble is yet to come. Meanwhile, before the great gates of a city, a familiar figure appeared. He looked up and read the imposing words on the wall, Dragon Cloud City. Rumor had it that the imperial family Yuan clan's efforts to raise an army to found the empire in historic times all began from this place. As such, every single esoteric debate was held here. I got held up for too long in the Lightning Canyon. I hope I made it in time. Hope those guys didn't get themselves wiped out again. Zhuo Fan sighed under his black cloak as he entered the city. There were soldiers all around the city, but that did not stop anyone from milling about. This city after all was a gathering place of the empire's most distinguished houses and clans. Everyone was free to come and go or even join the esoteric debate if they wished. But the army was tasked with breaking any conflicts among these clans, most of all among the 7 houses. Once a fight broke out, it was easy to plunge the entire empire into unrest. This made the soldiers stationed here ready to act at a moment's notice. The only one in the whole empire able to shake the 7 houses was none other than the second of the 4 pillars and Tianyu's marshal, god of war, Dugu Zhantian. Though meeting this big man was the last thing on Zhuofan's mind. Inside the city, Zhuofan was shocked. The place was packed like a sea of people. It was more packed than Drifting Flower City at the time of the 100-pill meeting. Then again, how many clans did the 100-pill meeting attract? The esoteric debate, however, drew in all the clans that hoped for a swift rise to fame and power. The difference was obvious. He didn't have the time to let the sights distract him. His top priority was to get back to the Luo clan and ascertain the situation. But only after a few steps, a ruckus entered his ears. Wingay City's Luo clan has landed their 27th win, advancing into the second-rate clans finals and becoming this esoteric debate's biggest underdog. Raising an eyebrow, Zhuofan looked towards the speaker but only found a small tavern, so he stepped in to learn more. The thick smell of wine and clamor struck his face the moment he stepped in. Some guys with bare arms were shouting and waving their fists around, God only knew why. There was a betting table in the tavern and a score table on the far wall had the name of every clan on it. People at the table were constantly placing bets. Of course, not everyone was betting. Zhuofan saw that the board had the 7 houses' names on it as well as their representative genius. Ascending Ice Phoenix, Drifting Flowers Edifice, Forest Fleeting Dragon, Merry Woods, Golden Armored Sword Dragon, Sword Marquise Abode. Zhuofan muttered every word, but then he screamed, Soaring Demonic Dragon, Black Wind Mountain? Who the hell came up with this? The dealer from the table saw Zhuofan amazed and smirked, Hey dummy, what hole did you crawl out of? Haven't you ever heard of Wingay City's Luo clan on Black Wind Mountain? Of their soaring demonic dragon Zhuofan? Zhuofan's mouth was agape. He scratched his head. When did this soaring black dragon stuff get started? Seeing his puzzlement, the dealer sighed, You're really ignorant. When Demon Archon Zhuofan wrecked Drifting Flower City, everyone and their uncles learned about him. Now that we know he represents the Luo clan in the esoteric debate, of course he stands on par with the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. This is why people call him Soaring Demonic Dragon. Apparently, it is the name of the martial art he used. Bullshit. A buffed guy started arguing, complete and utter bullshit. The Demon Archon Zhuofan did use the Soaring Demonic Dragon in Drifting Flower City to kill Regent Estate's second young master, but his nickname has a totally different meaning. His Soaring Demonic Dragon title implies that he wants to break through to heaven and challenge the 7 houses' 1,000-year-long authority. You know nothing. So don't go about talking rubbish. Zhuofan nodded, finding this second explanation far more plausible. God damn it. Who the hell dares to say that heaven stands above me? I'll rip them to pieces. This is more my style. Haha, yours truly like Soaring Demonic Dragon. But his joy ended as soon as the dealer barked back, Cut the crap. Demon Archon Zhuofan may be great, but do you think he has it in him to contest the 7 houses? The 7 houses' status in Tianyu has been unshaken for 1,000 years. Haven't you heard? Luo clan has the Sword Marquise Abode, Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Drifting Flowers Edifice backing them. I reckon that even if the Luo clan climbs high enough to enter the fight between the 7 houses, it will only fight as a vassal clan of the 3 houses. Bam. Zhuofan slapped the table, his face twisted in grimace. Who the hell told you that Luo clan is their vassal? Get your head straight, Luo clan will become an independent clan, competing on the same level as the 7 houses. It will not cower behind some other house for safety. Just wait and watch. The two looked at Zhuofan puzzled. What's his connection with the Luo clan? Why is he so fired up in protecting this underdog? But they didn't have the time to talk back and curse Zhuofan for being a mental case as an aged voice laughed. Haha, indeed. Luo clan should aim for the best clan and challenge the unwritten rule that has held on for millennia. If not, like every single time, the esoteric debate would end with only the 7 houses competing. Wouldn't that be too boring? Shuddering, Zhuofan looked back to see 3 elders. Every one of them was wearing a cloak to hide their features. The elder in the middle revealed his piercing eyes and grinned, Steward Zhua, I've long wished to meet you, my soul brother. I am Prime Minister Zhuge Changfeng. Care to join me for a chat? Zhuo Fan's eyes widened and he looked at him deeply. He never thought that the head of the four pillars, Zhuge Changfeng, would personally grace him with his presence. Glancing at the two elders on his sides from their mighty aura, he could tell they were rare experts. With a deep breath, Zhuo Fan nodded. Zhuge Changfeng grinned and made a flourish. The two then walked side by side to a table. The two elders stood behind Zhuge Changfeng and their eyes flashed, sending an energy to envelop the table. The noise around them slowly ceased and their words were never heard by the people outside. Yet to the untrained eye, the four looked like they were having a casual chat. The dealer and the big man looked baffled for a minute and then ignored them. Zhuo Fan was shocked and became wary of the two elders. No average Radiant stage expert could just set up a barrier so casually. Not even a peak one. The two must have trained in some special cultivation method. They weren't to be taken lightly. Thinking about Zhuge Changfeng, he may only be in the second layer of the profound heaven stage, but he was surrounded by many powerful people. He was a man no one from the seven houses dared underestimate. His name as the head of the four pillars was well deserved. Chapter 248, Wise Men's Talk. Chapter 248, Wise Men's Talk. Steward Zhuo, you must be wondering why I was looking for you? Zhuge Changfeng's beard trembled. Zhuo Fan nodded, but his only reply was a fixed stare. Zhuge Changfeng held him in greater admiration. In fact, just by answering, Zhuo Fan would have fallen in his trap. Regardless of the content, Zhuo Fan's reply would have given him the rights to lead the conversation and ultimately Zhuo Fan by the nose. But Zhuo Fan kept silent, thus keeping his right to speak. It may be some minor detail, but to a leader of Zhuge Changfeng's stature, it was very important. Right of speech translated into power. If one's right to speak was taken away, then that person was at a disadvantage. On this aspect, Zhuge Changfeng was an expert, and he admired Zhuo Fan's response greatly. Steward Zhuo, your rumors do not do you justice. I am in awe after meeting you. Prime Minister Zhuge is exaggerating. Your illustrious name has given me far more shock. Zhuo Fan laughed. Zhuge Changfeng sighed, wise men speak plainly. Let us dispense with the tricks, or we'll be at it for 3 days and still not finish. Haha, Prime Minister Zhuge is quite open, so I shall do the same. Zhuo Fan nodded cheerfully. Zhuge Changfeng went straight to the point. Steward Zhuo, I fear that someone may have instigated the Luo clan's participation in the esoteric debates. Oh, what makes you say that? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. Zhuge Changfeng replied, we are both men who look at things from all perspectives. I am certain that with you as its steward, Luo clan's rise beyond the seven houses would only be a matter of time. But your coming out in the open has been far too soon. With Steward Zhuo's cunning, I believe you are not a man looking for short-term gain. I surmise that you've been forced or perhaps lured into a choice that you could not refuse. Zhuo Fan was impressed. Zhuge Changfeng is amazing, able to understand everything. Indeed, Luo clan jumping into the esoteric debate and starting a fight with the seven houses was far too soon. Earlier he was quite pleased with Luo clan's power, but even he couldn't be as bold as to declare that this fight was a sure win. He chose this situation so he wouldn't lose the imperial family's support, or worse, offend them instead. Saying that he was lured was accurate. Forced? Also correct. These assumptions were both correct. Above all, Luo clan's power coming out in the open at this moment allowed Zhuge Changfeng, possibly the only person in the empire, to surmise that Luo clan would one day surpass the seven houses. This guess couldn't be called brazen but calamitous. And Zhuo Fan was hoping to see the day when Luo clan would reach such a level. But now no one out there would ever believe it except Zhuge Changfeng. Even Zhuo Fan had to admire his foresight. If it were anywhere else, even he wouldn't make such an absurd guess. Head of the four pillars, Prime Minister Zhuge is truly wise. I admire you. Zhuo Fan's flattery was sincere. Zhuge Changfeng chuckled. Steward Zhuo is too kind. This old bag of bones has been soaked in this world for far too many years, thus gaining some thoughts about its revolutions. I fall utterly short to young Steward Zhuo wisdom. Carrying on your shoulders the honor of the entire clan, you've earned my respect, ha. Then Prime Minister Zhuge is saying. To watch your back. Zhuge Changfeng's eyes shined, his voice solemn. Raising an eyebrow, Zhuo Fan looked a little lost. Clearly knowing his heart, Zhuge Changfeng chuckled. I can tell what Steward Zhuo is thinking. Yes, my words are full of suspicion. Who on earth would be so selfless, so caring for their fellow neighbor? And yes, I have a reason. But rest assured, Steward Zhua, you are not my enemy. In fact, he may very well be yours too. Oh, care to elaborate? Zhua Fan started. Zhuge Changfeng twirled his white mustache, his eyes shining. I am sure Steward Zhua is more than familiar with the saying, when two fight the third wins. So will you be among the first two, or the third? Zhuge Changfeng shook his head. I'm sure the wise Steward Zhua has caught on my meaning by now. Scratching his nose, Zhua Fan looked him in the eye and showed a broad smile. Zhuge Changfeng read his intent, and only smiled in reply. The two shared a smile full of countless implications and nodded. Haha, talking with smart guys is so refreshing and easy. Steward Zhua, I have said my piece and I'll be leaving. But before I do, please be kind enough to fulfill this selfish request of mine and explain something to me. Zhuge Changfeng rose to his feet and cupped his hands. Zhua Fan smiled. I don't see why not. I am the Empire's Prime Minister, Lung Wuchang is the Regent Estate Steward, and you sir are Luo Clan's Steward. This makes the three of us cut from the same cloth, with each of us scheming and lording over people. Myself and Lung Wuchang are both selfish, and luckily our interests are shared for now, and not set on a colliding path. But considering your talent, why would you pick the Luo clan? I can tell that sir is not doing this out of sympathy, or any kind of feelings. It escapes my capacity to understand. Zhua Fan's eyes trembled and he took a deep breath, before showing a crafty smile and emphasizing every word, because my ambition is far greater than yours. The head of the four pillars for the first time, trembled and his fists clenched. The Yin-Yang elders saw this and for the first time looked at Zhua Fan with shock and ill intent. The thick bloodthirst they oozed couldn't be concealed. But Zhua Fan was still composed, only his right eye flashing golden. Wait. On the brink of war, Zhuge Changfeng put a stop to the hostilities. The elders calmed down and Zhua Fan relaxed. But Zhuge Changfeng was perplexed and said to Zhua Fan, I may not know the extent of sir's ambition, but I nevertheless look forward to that day, and hope that it won't all come crashing down instead. Zhuge Changfeng signaled the two elders and left. A good distance from the tavern, one elder snorted, Prime Minister, why did you stop us? His words were far too rude. No, I don't think that was mere boasting. Zhuge Changfeng furrowed his brow. However, what is his aim? With his ability, it's only a matter of time before he becomes an overlord. But instead he chooses to be bogged down by that burden, Luo clan. To what end? Sigh, this kid is the first one I cannot see through. The Yin-Yang elders shared a glance but didn't say anything in fear of disturbing him. But for some reason Zhuge Changfeng was frowning constantly, leaving the elders at a loss. When were the rash words of some pup ever of any value? In another part of Dragon Cloud City, at the largest fighting stage, thunderous applause resounded. On the stage, Luo Yunchang's tall figure breathed heavily. Her lithe and demure figure, wrapped tightly in clothes, painted a fine picture. Every man there was drooling at her curves. Even more so when those beads of sweat worked to emphasize her enticing body lines. But her fifth layer of bone-tempering cultivation cut short any errant and lustful desire. Just now the young lady had dispatched 4 fourth-layer bone-tempering experts, while she herself remained unharmed. Next to her stood a cold youth of about 16 and in the third layer of bone-tempering stage. Despite his young age he was famed throughout the empire. Marshal Dugu's fifth godson, Tianyu's 5 tigers' youngest, swooping dragonic tiger Luo Yunhai. Everyone and their uncles had heard of him. Being at Dugu Zhantian's side and fighting next to his 4 brothers for more than 2 years, he had proven himself in battles, becoming a real man of valor. Circling them were 10 people around Luo Yunhai's age, but their eyes held a far more staunch look. They released constant dark energy and their iron-forged bodies glowed. They were of similar cultivation, but in a true life-or-death fight, they could render peak bone-tempering experts heavily wounded, if not outright dead. They were the Luo clan's guards that Zhua Fan entrusted Captain Pang with training. This was only the tip of the iceberg, and even the guards were enough to strike fear in many. The thought of seeing these monsters fully grown sent chills down the crowd's spine. And to avoid people acting in fear and envy, the Luo clan chose to only bring these 10 youths. If others had known that Luo clan would raise so many freaks and still hide their cards, they'd have long snuffed it in the cradle. Regardless of the what-ifs, Luo clan had nevertheless caused widespread shock to all who bore witness to this obscure clan. Just now, these Luo clan's 12 fought with a renowned second-rate clan's 100. Yet none of them was injured heavily even when the opposition had peak bone-tempering experts among them. This forced people to see Luo clan in a different and frightening light. Not to mention Luo clan's strongest had yet to take the stage. That rumored soaring demonic dragon, how outrageous was he? Chapter 249, Insights. Chapter 249 Insights. The victory of this second-rate clan battle goes to the Luo clan. A profound heaven stage expert in a robe flew on stage and gestured at Luo clan's 12. The crowd broke out in a thunderous applause. This is Luo clan's 28th win. I cannot believe they are a third-rate clan. Yeah, and their best man is yet to appear as well. People say their steward, Zhuofan, is on the same level as the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. He is hailed as Tianyu's 7th dragon, soaring demonic dragon. What? If Luo clan is so strong, why haven't I heard of it? Why is it stuck being a third-rate clan? People displayed immense shock in the stands, while many were whispering about the mysterious power behind such a strong underdog. Meanwhile, a few familiar faces stood at the highest point in the stands. The veterans of the martial world would instantly recognize these shocking figures. Weren't they the 7 houses representatives, 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Haha, what third-rate clan? That brat duped us. Even facing a top second-rate clan they won cleanly. If this was a third-rate clan, who would be a second-rate one? Right, Ninger? The woman was none other than Xuening Xiang from the newest Sword Marquis Abode's vassal clan, the Shui clan. She wasn't paying attention to Xie Tianyang, however, having eyes fixed on the stage. Why isn't Big Brother Zhuo here? Isn't he joining? Ninger, why do you always have to mention him? It hurts. Xie Tianyang's mood went sour. Xie Tianshang, sitting next to them, sheathed his cold blade in the scabbard and said, "It seems the rumor is true. The soaring demonic dragon is no longer a part of this world." What rumor? Xuening Xiang was anxious. Xie Tianshang spoke coldly. 5 years ago they say Zhuofan chanced upon Lightning Canyon and is buried there. What a pity, I really hoped to meet such a highly praised man. Now I can no longer see his strength for myself. Brother? Xie Tianyang cut him off, but it was far too late. The damage was done. Xuening Xiang's tears threatened to burst as she shook her head. Nonsense, Big Brother Zhuo can't be dead. Ninger, calm down. He's only missing. No one has found his body yet. Xie Tianyang was trying to patch things up, but Ninger glared. Brother Tianyang, why didn't you tell me? Xie Tianyang sighed. I didn't want to see you so sad. Haha, just for that? You should have told her sooner rather than prolong the agony. Don't you know that prolonged longing will only make a woman's pain deeper? The 3 looked back to see Long Jie and Long Kuei along with an exuberant youth walking up to them. Squinting, Xie Tianshang's scabbard crackled in his hand. Veiled Dragon Pavilion's Abyss Dragon, Long Xingyun. We finally meet. Please don't. We're all allies here. Don't pull your sword at our first meeting. Long Xingyun noticed Xie Tianshang's thirst for battle and waved frantically. Xie Tianshang snorted and tightened his grip on the hilt of his sword, suppressing his battle lust. Humph, sorry. I can't help but want to pit myself against an expert when I meet them. Please disregard my rudeness. Long Xingyun was sweating. He had heard of this martial fanatic, but he didn't think his illness was so serious. You aren't going to go after me after chopping the enemy, are you? Sighing, Long Xingyun turned to the Luo clan on stage. I've heard of the soaring demonic dragon Zhuofan's resounding name and hope to see him. A shame I will never have the chance. Why do you say that? You also believe Big Brother Zhuo is dead? His body hasn't been found. Ninger shouted. Shaking his head, Long Xingyun turned solemn. The lives that Lightning Canyon robs are left without a corpse. If his fortune was the same as Uncle Jiu, surviving that disaster, he would most likely appear here. But after 28 fights he is still missing. The first 27 fights were nothing, but the last one was only won by using all they had, even if they were unharmed. If he didn't appear even now when it matters the most, I fear he's gone from this world. Shuddering, Xuening Xiang was far from just believing this, but her heart knew the truth. With everyone around telling her so, she couldn't help but think the same as well. And this only worked to make the pain worse. Xie Tianyang clenched his fists and bit his lip, hating himself for being powerless. By the way, do you guys think that the Luo clan without Zhuofan is worth being our ally? Long Xingyun suddenly spoke. Xie Tianshang shuddered and spoke, in my eyes, ally or whatever doesn't matter. Whether they are worthy of a challenge or not matters. Haha, that's a martial fanatic for you. Long Xingyun laughed and admired him. Xie Tianyang was glum. I don't care what you think. Me and Zhuo Fan are brothers, and even if he isn't here, I hope to see Luo clan leave this place safely. Second young master sure is milder among the two. Long Xingyun smiled, but Veiled Dragon Pavilion's ally is Zhuo Fan. Without him around, the agreement is void. Whether the Luo clan can hold on to the agreement, it will rest solely on their performance. I fear, however, that they will never achieve it. Long Xingyun gestured to the front. Look, without the care of that demonic dragon, most of the savage dragons have them in their sights. Second young master, are you capable of stealing the dinner from the claws of those savage dragons? Xie Qinyang's group turned to look in shock. 4 figures suddenly showed up across from them. Hell Valley Spectre Dragon Yu Shan? Xie Qinyang's eyes trembled at the sight of a man in gray. Mary Woods' Forest Fleeting Dragon, Lin Xianfeng? Xie Tianyang looked at another gravely. And also Pil King Hall's Plague Dragon Yen Bangi? Long Xingyun pointed at a youth with half a face purple. They say he went insane cultivating his poison, and this is the result. And with his poisonous constitution, even without Yen Song or Yen Fu's achievements in alchemy, his mastery of poisons far exceeds vicious Pil King's. He is a fearful man. But far from the strongest. Long Xingyun's face turned grave, and even a hint of fear was present as he gestured at the last man. The real monster, Regent Estate's heaven-shaking dragon lord, Huangpu Qingtian, is present as well. Ka. A sharp sound came from Xie Qianshang's scabbard, his eyes glinting. Long Xingyun smiled dejectedly. This martial fanatic, does he not know what dreadful existence that man is? How is he so eager to challenge him at first glance? I just can't tell if these blockhead allies of mine are a blessing or a calamity. Meanwhile, Huangpu Qingtian's 4 also glanced their way but were calm as water. Even Huangpu Qingtian's eyes only spared them a cursory glance. That Zhuo Fan still hasn't shown himself? Huangpu Qingtian stared at the Luo clan. Lin Xianfeng giggled. Eldest young master, are you that eager to smash someone? No, I'm only curious why Sir Lung holds him in such high regard. Huangpu Qingtian crossed his arms. This world is yet to see a man worthy of my attention. I hope that kid would make an exception. He, eldest young master is truly a hero among heroes. You must really want to fight that kid. Lin Xianfeng jumped right in with his ass kissing, only to get a sharp look from Huangpu Qingtian in return. Lin Xianfeng, watch your tongue. This world doesn't have anyone worthy fighting with either. Only some temporary targets need destroying. I only want to see if that man is worthy of killing him myself. If he can't even amount to that, he will be left to you guys to handle. Lin Xianfeng shivered and nodded. The other 2 sneered. This brat is usually crafty, but this time's ass-kissing only reached the feet. Hee. Picking up on the 2's mockery, Lin Xuanfeng's felt rage inside. Then his eyes lit up and proposed, Eldest young master, why don't I test the Luo clan? Zhuo Fan is bound to show up then. And if he doesn't, we'll simply end them. Do it. Huangpu Qingtian's curt nod cut him off. Then the other laughed as he vanished. Xie Qianshang's group watching from afar was also gone. Huangpu Qingtian paused. You 2 go as well. Perhaps the 6 dragons fight will happen earlier. Understood. The 2 glanced at each other and were gone, leaving only Huangpu Qingtian standing alone with a sharp gaze. This was all in response to Lung Wuchang's judgment of this time's esoteric debate. It may just be a guess, but was enough to make this man take it seriously. Because Lung Wuchang had never said something like this to him ever before. That implication of not wanting to see Zhuo Fan was a lie. As a man of great power himself, even if conceited, he had to make things clear. Only by snuffing out the cradle would allow ultimate peace to descend. Chapter 250 Picking a Fight. Chapter 250 Picking a Fight. Young Miss, young master, good work. The people began commending the shocking power of the Luo clan's 12 with a round of applause as they left the stage. Captain Pang rushed over and expressed his thanks as well for the 2's work, watching them with great regret. If only he was younger, he would be joining and fighting alongside them as well. Luo Yunchang nodded, not able to speak from how weary she was. Captain Pang didn't dally anymore and led them to a bench to rest. He then turned to the 10 guards with praise. You've done well today. I will surely remember it. The 10 youths nodded, but their faces showed not a twitch, as if they were frozen in time. Luo Yunhai panted and sighed as well. Captain Pang, just how did you train them? These young guards are even more dauntless than most people I've seen in the army. Young master, there are some things you don't know. These guys are trained by me according to Steward Jewish training regimen. He said that great soldiers are good when fighting back, but these fellows are men willing to lay down their lives for the Luo clan when it matters the most. Captain Pang sputtered with great pride the feats of these kids. But then he froze and looked at the silent Luo Yunchang in distress. Luo Yunchang's hand tightened and her eyes glistened in tears. Luo Yunhai glared at Captain Pang. We asked about their training, so why are you talking about sacrifice? Captain Pang slapped himself till he was red, then cursed, it's my rotten mouth to blame for making young miss feel such sorrow again. Captain Pang, I don't blame you. Luo Yunchang stopped him from blaming himself. 5 years without so much as a word. Elderly did say that he is definitely alive, but from the look on his face, not even he believed those words. If he were still alive, there was bound to be some news at this point, not total silence. Tears started trailing down her cheeks. Luo Yunhai felt her pain as Captain Pang sighed, not knowing how to reply. The Luo clan didn't want to accept Zhuo Fan's death, but they had no choice in the matter. At that time the entire clan was in mourning. How did that saying go? Misery loves company. Their so-called allies had changed their stance and their support was waning. They were abandoned when the clan needed the most help. Many times Luo Yunchang wished to show the world their radiant stage experts. Zhuo Fan was gone, but the clan still held strong. Luo clan had the power to face the 7 houses. But Luo Yunchang was reminded every single time of Zhuo Fan's decisive stance, of keeping their cards hidden even from one's allies. This made her snuff out that reckless thought. She thus burned with even more desire, to prove to them who Luo clan was in the esoteric debate. Especially to their allies, that they are worthy of their constant support. No matter what, she had to lead the Luo clan into the final battle. Taking a deep breath, Luo Yunchang wiped her tears and steeled her will. She stood up. Come, Grand Elder is waiting for us. Luo Yunhai and Captain Pang looked startled at the leaving delicate figure. With Zhuo Fan gone the past half a decade and Luo Yunhai in the army, all the weight of the clan rested on the young Miss shoulders. And the talks with their allies were the most taxing. She didn't have Zhuo Fan's cunning nor his brashness. But on this path, her weak and fearful self slowly rose to the challenge, meeting the houses head-on. Within the fake civility with all that back and forth, she grew to be an imposing figure. But only she knew the taunts, mocking and misery she had to endure. Sighing, Captain Pang and Luo Yunhai followed after her. The 3 soon arrived with the 10 guards at the exit of the fighting stage. Lei Yuntian was there waiting for them along with the profound heaven fakes. Yunhai Yunchang, congratulations. You won 28 times in a row. Lei Yuntian cupped his hands. Luo Yunchang raised an eyebrow. Uncle Lei, you knew we'd won even when you were outside. Of course. With such a resounding applause, how could I not know? I've heard it so many times these days that my ears have swollen. Ah, Lei Yuntian was cheerful. Luo Yunchang chuckled as well as they walked with him to their accommodations. Uncle Lei, how about we make a different sound tomorrow since your ears are swollen? No need. I like this one very much, ha. They talked with the setting sun behind them, cheerful about tomorrow's victory. Among the 10 young guards behind them there were also the profound heaven fakers. Their power wasn't much to talk about. Even one of the young guards could finish them off. But that swag and pose had their intended purpose, to shock and awe the bystanders. Holy hell, the Luo clan is truly an underdog. They raised 20 profound heaven experts. They are as strong as the 7 houses. Though none realized looks could be deceiving. These elders were paper tigers, mere toys to scare children. But just as Fang Qiubai said before, showing them off was their strongest suit. Whoosh. Suddenly, a breeze passed by Luo Yunchang's charming figure. She felt her ear and her face changed. What's wrong, Yunchang? Lei Yuntian asked. Luo Yunchang was confused. And my earring's gone. Sister, did you lose it? Luo Yunhai looked around and shouted, Everyone, my sister lost her earring. Please help us find it. They all started looking around for the young Miss earring. Just then a funny laughter reached them. Ha, idiots, here it is. Ding. A sharp ringing sound was heard and they all looked in the direction of a creepy man in robes holding an earring. Luo Yunchang cried, That's mine. Mary Woods' forest fleeting dragon, Lin Xianfeng? Luo Yunchang was quite shocked. All eyes were now on that man. Was this one of the strongest disciples in Tianyu, one of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, forest fleeting dragon? The cheerful mood had long been replaced with heavy silence. Even those 20 profound heaven fakes felt their scalps go numb. These guys were no match for the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. Even if they weren't fakes. Even among profound heaven experts, the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix were the best. Why was this Lin Xianfeng suddenly approaching them? Was he picking a fight? What are you doing picking a fight with us? Aren't you from the 7 houses? Aren't you afraid of shaming yourself? This was on everyone's mind. Lin Xianfeng looked at Luo Yunhai in provocation. Such a remarkable godson that old guy Dugu Zhantian has gained. You recognized me with just one look? Of course. We may be soldiers, but the godfather has told us about the renowned figures in Tianyu. Luo Yunhai straightened his back and shouted, And you? What do you think you're doing? This is Dragon Cloud City and it is time for the esoteric debate. The houses and clans are forbidden from making a ruckus. Are you challenging Marshal Dugu's order and is that why you're blocking our way? Stop scaring people with that old guy's name. I'm not everyone. Lin Xianfeng mocked. Kid, do you know why the old man told you about Tianyu's strongest? It was to warn you that even he can't offend some people. It was something for you to watch out for. That order is for the average clans only, not for us, the 7 houses. Luo Yunhai seethed from anger. You dare to openly go against his order? See when I report to Marshal and he puts you in your place. Haha, you gullible pup. I just told you that old man won't interfere. Laughing, Lin Xianfeng flashed right in front of Luo Yunchang in the next blink. He took in her perfume, shook her other earring and snickered, Gorgeous, mind spending the night with me? Blushing, Luo Yunchang's face was a mask of anger as she sent a slap. Pervert. Whoosh. Lin Xianfeng was back to his original place before the slap made contact. Haha, this is all Luo clan amounts to? You could not even find someone good enough to touch my clothes, but you dare showing off in Dragon Cloud City? Men together. Lei Yuntian snapped. His cultivation was now in the 5th layer of the profound heaven stage, reaching Lin Xianfeng in a blink and striking with his finger. As for those profound heaven fakes, they had no choice but to join as well. In the face of the incoming finger, Lin Xianfeng only grinned. Then the oddest thing happened. He vanished into thin air and the 20 profound heaven fakes behind Lei Yuntian were knocked out one at a time. Lin Xianfeng then returned to his spot, but Lin Xuanfeng's fingers still hadn't arrived. He let out a bored yawn and with a light grip, snuffed out the lightning on the finger. Too slow, I've already finished fighting. Lin Xuanfeng's kick sent Lei Yuntian flying. Spurting blood, Lei Yuntian fell before the siblings. Only now did the 20 profound heaven fakes collapsed, actually lasting a second more than Lei Yuntian. They had long been knocked out. Such speed. Gasping, Luo Yunhai's face turned solemn. He knew Lin Xianfeng was fast, but even he didn't think it'd be to this extent. It was as if he defied the laws of time and space. He didn't catch any of Lin Xuanfeng's movements, and it looked as if he had always been standing there. But he knew that Lin Xianfeng had put everyone out of commission in a flash. Without a second thought, Luo Yunhai jumped in front of his sister. Luo Yunchang was solemn as well, glancing at Captain Pang and getting ready to face their great enemy. The power of the 6 dragons wasn't something they could contend with. They were all wishing from the bottom of their hearts that that person would come. Ironically, this was where the both sides' thoughts aligned, with Lin Xianfeng hoping for the same thing. Chapter 251 Dragon and Phoenix Battle. Chapter 251 Dragon and Phoenix Battle. Is the soaring demonic dragon truly dead? I mean, this would never have happened if he wasn't. Unless of course he is the biggest coward out there. Giving others a mocking glance, he punctuated with a sneer. Luo Yunchang's heart trembled. He's after Zhuo Fan. The guy assumed Zhuo Fan was watching from the shadows around here somewhere and decided to stage this play to draw him out. When in fact the reality was much crueler. Zhuo Fan wasn't even here to begin with. The Luo clan wallowed in mourning and Luo Yunchang snapped back in indignation. Since when did an outsider get the rights to butt into the affairs of our steward? Looks like you hold Zhuo Fan in quite a high regard. Although, would it even make that much of a difference if he were here? A nobody who some no-name clans call soaring demonic dragon, one who can barely stand up to our level, the level of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, doesn't deserve my attention. With a spark of cruelty in his eyes, Lin Xianfeng flashed right in front of Luo Yunchang's face. The group jerked back in fright. He's so fast. Too fast. They didn't even sense him move. Especially Lei Yuntian, who sucked in a cold breath. Both were of an equal stage in strength, that of the profound heaven. And common knowledge told him a difference in speed could exist but not to the extent of a gulf. Yet Lin Xuanfeng's brazen display proved that the 6 dragons were in a league of their own, even if they were only profound heaven experts. Snickering, Lin Xianfeng touched the smooth and delicate chin of the frightened Luo Yunchang. "Young Miss Luo, if we were to take this somewhere private, wouldn't that steward Zhua end up working under me in the end? Are you willing to come along?" "Don't touch my sister." Luo Yunhai snapped, sending a flying kick at him. Lei Yuntian and Captain Pang joined him by punching. Lei Yuntian flickered like lightning while the dark energy around Captain Pang turned him into an unstoppable raging machine. "Get your filthy hands off young miss." Lin Xianfeng couldn't care less about their bravado, to the point he even disregarded them completely. With Lei Yuntian leading the charge, Lin Xianfeng simply swished his wrist and Captain Pang tumbled forward. Captain Pang rammed into Lei Yuntian and the two coughed blood in their flight. To the mere third layer of bone-tempering Luo Yunhai, this was even more disdainful. A simple rise of his leg followed by a casual step ended the kid's attack. Luo Yunhai's wailed out of pain from having his leg bone bend under the guy's foot. Luo Yunchang rushed over. "Yunhai." She didn't make it, however, as Lin Xianfeng was quick in seizing her wrist and grinning like a demon. "Young Miss Luo, will you cooperate now?" Luo Yunchang bit her lip, her eyes teary as she clenched her fists in hatred. Seeing her so stubborn, Lin Xianfeng snickered as he put more weight on his foot. Luo Yunhai made his pain known again. But he cut off his screams abruptly despite the agony. He chose to hold it in, although it was clear from his purple face that it took all he had not to keep screaming. He couldn't scream, or his sister would have no choice but to agree and the Luo clan's name would go up in flames. His training in the Dugu army taught him how to shed away the weak young master persona and become a true man of principle. "Oh, quite the tough one I siege." Raising an eyebrow, Lin Xianfeng eyed him viciously, and put more power in his stomp. The sound of crushed bone jarred everyone's ears, but Luo Yunhai only gnashed his teeth as sweat soaked him. No matter how much it hurt, how pale he got, he didn't make a sound. Lei Yuntian and Captain Pang were enraged at this, yet couldn't even twitch as their bodies were seriously hurt as well. As for those profound heaven fakes, they were rooted in place and shivering from pain. They had no intention of showing off anymore. After biting the dust once, they simply closed their eyes shut. Even as imperial guards, they had never offended the 7 houses, least of all now. Although the young guards had guts, even they'd think twice after being knocked out cold from just one slap. Luo Yunchang felt her brother's pain, so much so her teeth were threatening to break under the strain of her clenched jaw. She was caught in the middle, whether to choose her clan's honor or save her younger brother from the torment. Lin Xianfeng roared as he yanked her wrist. "Talk. Are you going to give in and make me Zhuofan's master or not?" "Humph, are you worthy?" Luo Yunchang scoffed back. "Compared to him, you're nothing but discarded dung, unfit to even carry his shoes." Lin Xuanfeng's eyes twitched and he backhanded her. "Have it your way then, skank." Luo Yunchang showed no fear at the incoming blow. The others wanted to help but were unable to even move. All they could do was watch him humiliate their young miss. Whoosh! And right then a white ribbon shot at Lin Xianfeng. He was forced to give up on his attack and flickered away. The ribbon passed through the air and went back. The source was tens of meters away from the Luo clan's siblings. Lin Xianfeng spat back as he watched the white ribbon fly away. "Ascending Ice Phoenix Chu Qingqing, this is none of your damn business. Beat it." "Humph, Drifting Flower City will never allow anyone to harass women." A white figure along with Iris and Peony overseers walked over. Her elegance and her demeanor, both pictured her as a celestial. Not even her veil could mask the outstanding beauty she possessed, to the extent that it left even Luo Yunchang speechless. "Is this Chu Qingqing? She is just like a goddess." Then she noticed the 2 overseers and her whole face lit up. Sister Iris, Sister Peony. When Zhuofan was reported missing, perhaps because they were all women, while meeting with her allies, Luo Yunchang and the 2 hit it off. The 2 liked Luo Yunchang as well, treating her like an angel. Unlike that devious and devilish Zhuofan. It was only natural that the 3 were practically sisters now. The overseers rushed to her in worry. "Yunchang, are you all right?" Luo Yunchang nodded her head with a smile and went to help her brother and Captain Pang. The overseers supplied them with pills to offer relief. Chu Qingqing only stared daggers at Lin Xianfeng. Lin Xianfeng scratched his nose as he said in good nature, "Chu Qingqing, This is no drifting flower city, so try to keep your nose out of another's business. Habit? Chu Qingqing scoffed and chuckled in mockery. Lin Xianfeng laughed back coldly, then you'll have to forgive me for what I'm about to do. Lin Xianfeng flickered, putting Luo Yunchang and her group on edge. Iris and Peony overseers held her hand to ease her worries. Only this time Chu Qingqing intervened. A white mist rose between her hands, swiftly spreading around. Wherever the mist passed, a layer of ice formed. Lin Xianfeng slowly became suspicious as the mist coiled around his figure. His speed was clearly affected as everyone had no trouble seeing him anymore. Shocked, Lin Xianfeng got some distance between them. He trembled a bit and the ice sheet on him crumbled off, but the fear in his eyes was more than apparent. Frost Domain. Did your soul reach the radiant stage? Lin Xianfeng cried incredulously. He felt how Chu Qingqing's frost spread along her discerning field and acted as a barrier. Any that stepped foot in it would find it impossible to escape her notice, regardless of speed. It was a sign of imminent breakthrough into the radiant stage. Once her frost domain became an invisible divine sense, that would be when she'd attain the true form of discerning field. And just like Zhuofan, she had the prospect of entering the radiant stage. As for killing with intent, it wasn't that far away either. His face growing colder, Lin Xianfeng said, I heard you wasted 10 years of your cultivation. Who knew you'd recover so fast? Chu Qingqing, you are worthy of being among the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, albeit barely. I extend my admiration. Then get lost if you know what's good for you. I am in no mood of stirring something up before the true battle between the 7 houses. Chu Qingqing glanced over. Lin Xianfeng was pissed and his face was a mask of hatred. Then he broke out into a grin, accompanied by him snickering, Chu Qingqing, you're a bit full of yourself. Not even you are enough to deal with me. Whoosh. With a boom, Chu Qingqing felt a wind on her back and felt a slap coming her way. The 2 palms met and Chu Qingqing put all her power in it to repel the attacker. When she noticed her palm, it was covered in green. It was lucky that she had formed a layer of ice beforehand. The ice made from yuan qi fell on the ground, sizzling like acid and releasing a foul stench. Chu Qingqing held her nose and jumped back startled. What dreadful poison! Looking up, she noticed the attacker was a man with half his face purple, and said, Plague Dragon Yen Bongi? Chapter 252, The Dread of Huangpu Tianyuan. Chapter 252, The Dread of Huangpu Tianyuan. Haha, you old poisoner. About time you showed up. Any later and I'd have had to go all out. Lin Xianfeng roared in laughter, walking next to Yen Bongi while raising a taunting look at Chu Qingqing. Yen Bongi was simply silent. The only sign he had that seemed to acknowledge the man was the bloodthirsty cold stare. Heart-jumping, Chu Qingqing grew serious. 6 dragons and 1 phoenix's power was the strongest in the profound heaven stage. Besides Huangpu Qingtian, there wasn't much of a difference in the other 6's power. She could deal with forest fleeting dragon Lin Xianfeng, but her hands were tied with Yen Bongi in the mix. The others picked up on this and grew nervous. Lin Xianfeng puffed up his chest and laughed. Ha, ascending ice phoenix, now that we are 2 against 1, I reckon what your chances will be. Chu Qingqing tightened her fists in response. Ha, you're among the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, yet you have no shame going 2 against 1? What will you say to 3 against 2 then? The others jerked and saw Long Xingyun and Xie Tianxiang's groups arriving. Xuaningxiang looked at Luo Yunchang. She gathered her courage and showed a bashful smile. Young Miss Luo, are you all right? Luo Yunchang chuckled a nod but was quite perplexed. Who is this girl? I don't even know her, so why does she care so much about me? But when she noticed the thunder ring, she realized that Zhuofan wore the same one. That ring. This is our engagement ring. Xie Tianyang butted in, showing his own without an ounce of shame. It was precisely for this occasion that he had Zhuofan make one for him as well. Glaring at him, Xuaningxiang stammered an explanation. Young Miss Luo, don't misunderstand. This is nothing between us. Brother Zhua simply gave a token to each of us. Oh, I see. Luo Yunchang nodded in disappointment and vexation. That guy never gave me anything. Chu Qingqing's ears perked up and she whipped her head back, feeling quite down herself. Grandmother said he is heartless, yet he suddenly grew a conscience? Humph, damn philanderer. Long Xingyun got next to Chu Qingqing and stared at their opponents. I wonder who among you will spar with me. Humph, stand back and leave them all to me. Xie Tianxiang stepped in front, his sword sheath moved and his piercing gaze landed on his enemies. Like sharp blades, the two had a very real cold and sharp feeling on their necks. Long Xingyun almost facepalmed. This guy's martial fanatic obsession is out again. Though this is a very good opportunity to see how reliable he really is. While their side got bolstered, the enemy's side was tense. Now that the tables had turned, they were the ones at a disadvantage. Haha, it's 3-on-3 in fact. A laughter followed when a gray figure popped out before Lin Xianfeng. Their tension eased. Chu Qingqing frowned and spat. Spectre Dragon Yu Yushan. It is I. Yu Yushan nodded and turned to his own allies. Eldest young master was right, 6 dragons and 1 phoenix were bound to fight earlier. Haha, in this case we are even. What's there to fear? Lin Xianfeng cackled, having recovered his cockiness. Chu Qingqing's side waited solemnly. With a metallic sound, Xie Tianshang's sword left its sheath. You too pick someone else. These 3 are mine. Young Master Xie, can you take them on all by yourself? Chu Qingqing frowned in worry. Hardening his gaze, Xie Tianshang made up his mind, how else can I challenge Huangpu Qingtian? Brother Xie, I don't care about the other 2 but leave Yu Yushan to me. Long Xingyun stepped up with a hard face. Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Hell Valley's grudges can only be settled amongst ourselves. Haha, perfect. I was thinking the same thing. Let's see what Veiled Dragon Pavilion's Abyss Dragon is made of. I'll make sure whether Hell Valley has overestimated you or not. Yu Yushan laughed, with sparks flying as their gazes met. The scene was close to a breaking point. It was missing but a spark to devolve in an all-out war. But then a shout came, stop. Whoosh. 4 men appeared between the 2 sides, eliciting murmurs from the others. 4 tigers of Tianyu. Seniors, Marshal Dugu forbids any grudge fights in Dragon Cloud City. The 7 houses are no exception. Please comply. Dugu Feng cupped his hands at the 6, his tone very cold. And yet another shout came, Brother Yunhai? Dugu Hua noticed Luo Yunhai on the ground and knew at a glance that his leg was broken. His short temper was already burning as he raved, who did this? Third brother, it was Lin Xianfeng. Luo Yunchang spoke in a pleading voice, please elder brother help us. Dugu Hua's face heated up as he roared like a beast, anyone who harms our family is dead. Eldest brother? Quiet. Dugu Feng cut him off with a glare, then continued, I hope that we can all let this matter rest. If Marshal were to step in himself, it won't simply end with words. The rest stared at him fixedly, then nodded slowly. Dugu Zhantian was the second of the 4 pillars. They had to show him some respect after all. Fine. It's such a pity though that I didn't get to show them my prowess. We'll just have to wait for the decisive battle of the houses then. Lin Xianfeng shrugged and mocked. They hadn't lost in this exchange anyway. The rest looked at each other and nodded as well. Dugu Feng eased his breath and walked to Luo Yunhai. Yunhai, please forgive me. No, I understand that the eldest brother had to dissolve the situation. Luo Yunhai's eyes were firm. Past 5 years in the Dugu army had him grown accustomed to the meaning of military. In order to reach an objective, sometimes personal honor had to be sacrificed. Taking a deep breath, Dugu Feng patted his shoulder, feeling his pain as well. His little brother was pushed around and what did the eldest brother do? Nothing. All because of his orders. He was a soldier first and foremost, a Dugu army's general. The other tigers sighed as well, filled with just as much rage as him. Oh, isn't the situation over yet? A sudden voice came, lofty as an emperor's, carrying might with every word. They all turned to see the most dreadful among the 6 dragons. Heaven-shaking dragon lord, Huangpu Qingtian. Eldest young master, this is what happened. Lin Xianfeng looked like a dog as he explained in brief. Huangpu Qingtian nodded, yet his face was always calm. He stepped forward and said, since Zhuofan is a no-show, hurry up and kill the Luo clan. If such a crucial event doesn't warrant his coming, he must be dead for sure. The others jerked in fright. Huangpu Qingtian was going to go against Dugu Zhantian's orders and kill the Luo clan. Young Master Huangpu, Marshal is against any grudge fights. Are you? Dugu Feng blocked his path and shouted, but Huangpu Qingtian only had disdain for his attempt. Grudge fight, war, they all describe armed conflicts between 2 equally strong sides. But none of you are even worthy of a grudge fight. So erasing someone weak doesn't violate any order. Such crass. The people were shocked once again by this man's egotistical behavior. Whoosh. Suddenly, A sword light came down from above, straight for Huangpu Qingtian. Xie Qianshang was filled with fighting spirit as he shouted, Huangpu Qingtian, I've waited 10 years for this. Flowing spaces 9 forms, splitting heaven. 10 years? Then you waited for nothing. He walked just like before, and yet in the face of the upcoming sword attack, he only replied with a casual palm attack. Boom. The sword wave splintered and an almighty power slammed into Xie Qianshang's chest and sent him flying while coughing blood. The way Huangpu Qingtian put away his hand was as if he flicked away a pest, a mosquito, so casual, so dismissive. Not even his gait changed. SSS. All watched in stunned silence how he dominated Xie Qianshang. Not even Xie Tianyang conceived it possible for his invincible brother to be so easily dealt with by heaven-shaking Dragon Lord. Everyone said Huangpu Qingtian was a monster, but how could there be such discrepancy from the rest of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? The others couldn't even put up any resistance. The hearts of everyone sank in despair. Huangpu Qingtian was an untamable mountain as he stepped towards them. Although slow, his step carried such power that it was as if he was stepping on everyone's hearts, crushing their spirit and will. Chapter 253 Demonic Dragon's Appearance. Chapter 253 Demonic Dragon's Appearance. The heavy pressure pressed down on all and they flinched back again and again. Yet Huangpu Qingtian was still strolling forward, like a king on a mission. The air was excruciatingly thick, hard to even breathe. The dread on everyone's face only increased with every sound of Huangpu Qingtian's steps. Monster. It was on everyone's mind, yet none dared say it. Lin Shenfeng Yen Bangyi and Yu Yushan observed coldly. The stronger Huangpu Qingtian was, the more at ease they were and respectful. Huangpu Qingtian, think this through, or you will suffer the consequences. Du Feng wiped his brow. Among his peers in Tianyu, heaven-shaking Dragon Lord was the first to scare this leader of tigers. Nodding, Huangpu Qingtian never missed a beat. Relax, I'm not after you the 5 tigers' lives. I still have to show consideration for Marshal Dugu. As long as you come out unharmed, he will not charge into Regent Estate. So taking Luo clan's young miss head with me won't make that old geezer snap. The 4 tigers felt eerily afraid and worried. Huangpu Qingtian was not only high on his horse, but quite astute as well, a schemer and plotter. He grasped Dugu Zhantian's bottom line, and knew when to stop just shy from it, even if he was about to cause a massacre. Correct, Dugu Zhantian cared most about his 5 godsons. He was tough on them, true, but he cherished them dearly as well. If anything were to happen to them, the old guy would flip and march his army regardless of consequences. Everyone had a bottom line, and the second of 4 pillars, Marshal of 3rd Army, was no exception. Even though Luo Yunchang was the dear sister of his 5th godson, not even for her would he go into action. She had nothing to do with him. Knowing this, Huangpu Qingtian acted unrestrained and unfeeling to others. Young Miss Luo, run. Go find the marshal. You'll be safe there. Go while we hold him off. Dugu Lin whispered. Luo Yunchang was worried for Luo Yunhai. Dugu Lin said, don't worry, Yunhai is our brother and godfather's godson. Huangpu Qingtian won't ever touch him. Go, we won't be able to hold him for long. Luo Yunchang took one last look at her brother and nodded. She was relieved but still hesitant. Just then, a soft hand grabbed her into a run. Looking back, it was actually Xuaningxiang. Sister Luo, brother Zhuo always called me a burden. Let's see him say that again after I save his clan's young miss. Xuaningxiang stuck out her charming and cute nose as she smiled. Seeing this cutie, Luo Yunchang's worries drifted out of her. She didn't know how Zhuo Fan got to meet this girl, but the girl was like an angel, easing her worries. Lin Shenfeng snickered from afar. Running, is it? Did you ask me first? Wait, don't sour the eldest young master's mood. Yu Yushan blocked him with a sneer. He now realized that without Huangpu Qingtian's explicit approval, none could do anything. When the man was on the prowl, only horror would have awaited him for meddling with his hunt. Lin Shenfeng wiped his brow and nodded. Yu Yushan beamed in reply. Thanks, dude. If not for you, I would have been a goner. No thanks necessary. I'm not doing it for you either. With Huangpu Qingtian's temper, I fear you'll take me down with you. Yu Yushan snickered. Back to Huangpu Qingtian, he didn't much care if the 2 girls broke into a run and shook his head. A hare always thinks it can outrun its hunter, only to find its efforts go in vain. Huangpu Qingtian punctuated with chasing after the 2. The 4 tigers rushed to intercept with 4 palms, Wind, forest, fire, mountain, imperial army. Smiley face is original. If you have a better suggestion, I'm all ears. Boom. As if a dam broke, the power swept everything like a literal army. Although it was only 4 palms, it was as if tens of men joined hands. Not even Huangpu Qingtian could ignore it, feeling the sudden and forceful might boring down on him. Huangpu Qinyuan's grinned, a formation. A pity it's too low grade. And he punched. Without any preamble, just this plain punch contained almost godly power. The boom sent the 4 tigers flying as they bled from their mouths. Now they felt on their own skin why Xie Tianxiang was so badly wounded after just one attack. Because Huangpu Qingtian was no human. How can our peer in both age and cultivation have such power? But the crux of it all was their so-called stalling was pointless. Huangpu Qingtian simply barreled through them unimpeded in his chase after Luo Yunchang. It was as if stepping on ants in passing. Whoosh! Suddenly, a whistle announced the incoming claw attack, below Huangpu Qingtian's belt. It was so devious, so sneaky it caused everyone to gasp. Veiled Dragon Claw? Smiley face. I have no clue if it's a declaration of an attack or Huangpu saying it's useless. Long Xingyun's eyes glinted as he arrived in the man's path. Huangpu Qingtian laughed coldly. Veiled Dragon Pavilion gets worse by the day. You only got so far through underhanded and crafty methods. And this is what I know best. Long Xingyun snickered, not minding it in the least. Huangpu Qingtian disregarded him and was planning on kicking him away. It was then he found it odd that his leg didn't move. A shining ice sheet crept up his legs and rooted him in place. He then saw a dainty palm filled with mist shooting from above. Chu Qingqing. Unable to move, Long Xingyun clawed him from below, and Chu Qingqing attacked from above. It was the perfect combo to subdue an enemy's movements while also unleashing a pincer attack. Squinting, Huangpu Qingtian snorted fearlessly, I see. You laid a trap for me with Frost Domain while the 4 tigers blocked my path. Not bad at all, I will give you that much. But... Papa. 2 loud noises echoed as Chu Qingqing's palm slammed into his head and Long Xingyun's claw hit from below. Although despicable, it was a strong attack nonetheless. And yet, no one expected what happened next. 2 peak profound heaven experts could do nothing against one with equal cultivation. Chu Qingqing and Long Xingyun stared in shock and sucked a cold breath. Just how strong is this monster? Huangpu Qingtian curled his lips. A pity, you are too weak and overestimate your strength. Despite his words, his eyes flashed. Then, with a boom, his body exploded in a golden light and roared like a dragon. A golden dragon rose from him, sending the pair flying and coughing blood. It then circled back into his body. What is that thing? Long Xingyun watched Huangpu Qingtian perturbed, as did the rest. It was as if his body held a guardian. Grinning, Huangpu Qingtian mocked, it is the heritage of an emperor. You are not worthy to know. Huangpu Qingtian then chose to ignore him, leaving him sitting on the ground in shock and bleeding at the mouth. Whoosh! With no one left to block him, Huangpu Qingtian went after the girls. They looked back in shock to find Chu Qingqing, Xie Tianxiang and Luo Yunchang, as well as the 4 tigers of Tianyu wounded on the ground and unable to even get up on their feet. Despite the intense fight, it only took a second. The gap was so insanely wide that all that effort didn't stall Huangpu Qingtian for even a fraction of a second. How is there such discrepancy between him and the other 5 dragons and 1 phoenix? The 2 were now panicking from fright. Huangpu Qingtian was like a relentless monster. No one seemed to be able to escape his clutches. Ninger, watch out! Xie Tianyang roared as he and Long Jie with Long Kuei jumped in front. But what could they do when 5 dragons and 1 phoenix could do nothing? The answer? Nothing. With a mere flick, Huangpu Qingtian sent them flying, landing heavily on the ground. Snickering, Huangpu Qingtian extended his hand. Young Miss Luo, this palm of mine will splatter the both of you. If Zhuo Fan doesn't show even now, he is definitely dead, or maybe just a lily-livered good-for-nothing coward. Rubbish. You're the real coward. Brother Zhuo is a hero. Ninger cursed. Luo Yunchang was giving her all to run, but still nodded at Ninger's words. Grinning, Huangpu Qingtian mocked, I hope so too, but at this point he seems likelier dead than alive. Huangpu Qingtian struck with his palm. It looked casual, but the might behind it was that of a mountain. The girls were scared to even run, watching the incoming palm with fear. Everyone wanted to help them, somehow save them, but no one had the strength. Sister. Luo Yunhai cried and crawled. Ninger. Xie Tianyang was doing the same with clenched teeth. Huangpu Qingtian looked on coldly as his attack approached the girls. Haha, Zhuofan is really dead after all. A shame you all had to die for nothing. As he defied Regent Estate, I had no choice but to waste my time with this puny Luo clan. You only have Zhuofan to blame for your fates. It was he who cut your young lives short. Luo Yunchang and Ninger remained silent. Xie Tianyang punched the ground, reminded of how powerless he was back in Blue Expanse City, and cursed, "That bastard Zhuofan. Why does he always wash his hands off every offense he ever does? Now Ninger is giving her life away for nothing. Bastard, come out if you have any shred of conscience." Lin Xuanfeng's group found his cursing entertaining. So Zhuofan really is dead. Or this would never have happened. No, Zhuofan is not dead. Luo Yunchang shouted back. Huangpu Qingtian's attack was about to hit the girls, then call him out. Show me that he's alive. But it's too late now. No one can save you from my attack. Tears streamed Luo Yunchang's face. Zhuofan, if you can hear me, please come. At least let me see you one last time. She was on the brink of death, yet no response came. Lin Xuanfeng's group laughed harder at her futile attempt and treated her like a fool. Ninger held her close instead, even if her heart had the same feeling. Useless. Die in peace. Whoosh. Huangpu Qingtian's palm attack sped up and the girls felt their breaths caught in their throat, picturing the gory mess they would soon become. Luo Yunchang closed her teary eyes, in pain and sorrow. Why couldn't I see Zhuofan one last time? Ninger was praying for a miracle, the same miracle that saved her in Blue Expanse City. Will anyone save us? Suddenly Xie Tianyang and Ninger's thunder ring flickered and the two cried. Zhuofan. Big brother Zhua. Boom. Too little too late. Huangpu Qingtian's palm struck down, destroying even the ground below them. Xie Tianyang watched the aftermath in a daze, slumping powerless as tears flowed from his eyes. It was now that a carefree voice entered their ears. Were you looking for me? Chapter 254, Another Monster. Chapter 254, Another Monster. A shiver ran through Huangpu Qingtian and his knuckles turned white. He turned like the rest to where the voice came from. To see a figure in a billowing black cloak, wielding a sword of unmatched edge, yet sheathed for now. But that could not hide the dread and power it instilled in the hearts of all present. Especially when he held two girls in his arms, the same ones Huangpu Qingtian was about to kill. How? The mangled bodies and the torn limbs were nowhere to be seen. How were they still in one piece? Did this man just do the impossible? Did he save them without even Huangpu Qingtian noticing? That's absurd. Who could ever pull such a feat, such as saving someone from right under heaven-shaking Dragon Lord's nose, and at the last second too? Not even the feeding feet Lin Shenfeng could pull it off. Who the hell is this guy? Eyes filled with shock and intrigue graced the black figure. Not even Huangpu Qingtian could stop his eye from twitching. It was a rare sight to see him lose his voice. Because it had never happened to him, ever. Once the haze passed, Luo Yunchang was still trying to make sense of everything. 1 second she was staring death in the face, and the next she was in the arms of a robed man. Xuanxiang didn't fare any better, but the familiar flickering forced her eyes on the man's hand, on the sparkling thunder ring. Big brother Zhua, you're all right. Her words earned the gasp of the crowd. Easing them down, Zhuofan smiled and pulled back his cowl to reveal the same familiar face that some cherished, some hated, and some reviled. Yes sir, he was the one and only soaring demonic dragon, who made sure to leave chaos in his wake wherever he went. Zhuofan. Smiling to Xuanxiang, Zhuofan showed a rare calmness. Ninger, it's been a while. Xuanxiang nodded a smile, lowering her bashful face. Xie Tianyang was still crawling and couldn't for the life of him decide which was better, life or death. He was thrilled that Xuanxiang was safe and sound. But the deep gaze Xuanxiang gave Zhuofan made him feel his life was over. Ninger, why have you never looked at me like that? Bam. Zhuofan stumbled forward and held his butt. He snapped back irate, young miss, what's wrong? We haven't seen. His words soon stopped though. Because Luo Yunchang was looking at him with teary eyes and a reproachful glare. You are asking me? What about you? Where the hell did you run off to for the past 5 years? I was worried sick. Luo Yunchang raved, but she couldn't mask the joy bursting from her chest as she forgot where she was and jumped into his arms, her tears falling non-stop. She wanted to hold him close to her heart and never let him go. Zhuofan was caught unprepared, not knowing how to even respond, but ultimately deciding to hug her back. Xuaningxiang felt a stab of pain from deep within her heart. She should be happy to see Zhuofan again, so why the pain? But the sight of this young miss holding Zhuofan so close seemed to make her heart frantic. Chu Qingqing was no different. Zhuofan was the husband she recognized back in Drifting Flower City, and here he was, spreading his love. However reasonable and perfectly natural her brain told her this reunion was, her heart was another matter entirely. The pain was far greater than any wound she had ever received. Two women's love aside, the four tigers of Tianyu felt their hearts literally crack. Young Miss Luo pined for someone else. That makes the 5 years we carried a torch for her go down the drain. We even fought among each other over her. This blasted and rotten Steward Zhua is a clan thief in the truest sense. He even stole young Miss Heart. And yet, worry soon gave way to joy. Watching such a touchy reunion, Xie Tianyang's mouth split into a wide grin. As long as Zhuofan has a woman, Ninger will be devastated. The perfect time to make my move. Whether it is Chu Qingqing or Luo Yunchang, who cares? Ha ha ha. Xie Tianyang was laughing his heart out, on the inside, totally forgetting the precarious and quite deadly situation they were in seconds ago. For even a fifth layer of bone-tempering woman to kick your ass, soaring demonic dragon's reputation is undeserving. A brash and cocky voice burst Luo Yunchang's bubble of happiness. She came crashing down to reality, reminded of the danger they were in. She jumped away from Zhuofan, wiped her tears and, like the perfect image of a little girl, dodged behind him. Steward Zhua, keep me safe. Her coy voice was enough to melt the four tigers' ice-cold hearts, which were now bursting out of their chest in rage and rancor directed at the newly arrived man Zhuofan. What does young Miss Luo sees in that Steward Zhua? Isn't he beneath her? Glancing back, Zhuofan was puzzled. Since when did this last learn to throw a hissy fit? It's not a bad idea though. Haha, eldest young master, this guy doesn't look like much. He's only in the 9th layer of bone-tempering stage. He couldn't even break through to the profound heaven stage. Fighting him will only harm your image, so allow me to do the honors. Lin Xianfeng laughed. Huangpu Qingtian nodded. The brat is right. If this is all Zhuofan amounts to, there's no need for my intervention. But in case Zhuofan was pulling his punches, it might not be so bad to let this dumbass test the waters. Huangpu Qingtian smiled. Suit yourself. I'll allow it. Thank you, eldest young master. Lin Xianfeng snickered at Zhuofan. Zhuofan raised an eyebrow and turned to Luo Yunchang. Who are these guys? Luo Yunchang gave a rushed explanation. Getting the memo on who was who here, Zhuofan realized how powerful Huangpu Qingtian was. He alone dealt with Zhuofan's 3 allies and the 4 tigers of Tianyu, yet was still so composed. Actually, he's dreadfully powerful and Zhuofan would never have fought him in the past. As for now, hee. Zhuofan grinned deviously, his brain already cooking the beginnings of a plan. Luo Yunchang brightened. Being so long in Zhuofan's presence, she knew his tells, and the confidence he showed now was more than a little reassuring. So without further ado, she singled Lin Xianfeng out. Steward Zhua, ignore the others and teach this prick a lesson he never forgets. Zhuofan asked puzzled, what's so special about him? He had errant intentions about me? Luo Yunchang was wishy-washy, holding his sleeve and acting like a big child. It unleashed a cuteness overload attack on everyone's heart. Zhuofan blinked, giving her another look. Young Miss has changed. She finally started to work out her naivety. And since the young miss had spoken, it was a steward's duty to comply. Whether its request was real or not was besides the point. Zhuofan switched his tone in the blink of an eye and stared down Lin Xianfeng. Forest fleeting dragon Lin Xianfeng, you must be tired of living. You had the nerve to go after my young miss. And it's not my fault that Luo clan has no men. Pa. He didn't get to finish his sentence as something knocked him flying. He went through 4 houses before getting buried under the rubble. Zhuofan was a whole 100 meters away, his eyes aflame as he lowered his hand. Bastard, you dare say that with me here? Go to hell. The silence was deafening. They stared slack-jawed at him. Even heaven-shaking Dragon Lord was stunned. What just happened? They were 100 meters apart. How did Zhuofan slap him away? The one under the rubble was from the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, Lin Xianfeng. the fastest man in the profound heaven stage. Be it an attack or a hidden weapon, anything thrown at the guy was easily dodged. That was all thanks to his speed. As for melee attacks, you couldn't even touch the man. Yet here was Zhuo Fan flicking his hand and sending this speedster flying. If that wasn't shocking, what else was? But what was really on everyone's mind was, how did he do it? No one noticed anything. He moved so fast, it went beyond their perception, including heaven-shaking dragon lords. If a monster like him couldn't catch what happened, didn't that make Zhuo Fan a monster himself? Their eyes watching Zhuo Fan turned from shock to fearful. Xie Tianxiang muttered to himself before sighing, soaring demonic dragon's reputation precedes him, what an oddity. Long Xingyun was dazed. I now know why father allied with the Luo clan. Why little Kuei and little Jia were so driven to cultivate. This monster gives too great of a shock. But will only cultivation be enough to catch up to these two monsters? Long Xingyun shook his head. Chu Qingqing watched the imposing figure with a deep gaze. But then recalling his ties with the other girls ruined her mood. Chapter 255, Almighty Ability. Chapter 255, Almighty Ability. Rumble. Lin Shenfeng rose from under the ruins with a bloody mouth and spat what seemed to be blood along with a tooth mixed in it. He looked towards Zhuo Fan, but this time he wasn't as carefree as before. Soaring demonic dragon is a mystery in and of himself. He didn't even get a chance to react and was sent flying. What's more, Zhuo Fan did it offhandedly. If he hadn't pulled his punches, would he even be alive right now? More importantly, the opponent's speed was creepier than his. The speed he prided himself with turned out to have no use whatsoever. Lin Xuanfeng's fear of Zhuo Fan only grew stronger. Yu Yushan and Yen Bangyi rushed over while looking at Zhuo Fan distraught. They had heard the rumors about the infamous Zhuo Fan, but seeing was believing of how demonically dreadful he was. No wonder this guy caused chaos among the 7 houses, yet was living nice and happy. His power is even weirder. With a dismissive wave, Zhuo Fan acted as if all was natural, and turned to Luo Yunchang. Young miss, will you be content with such a punishment? Should I give him a kick as well? Lin Xuanfeng's heart jumped and he shivered a step back. Having gone through that light slap, the forest-fleeting dragon of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix was shaking in his boots. No one would ever believe it was possible, but the truth was undeniable. Huangpu Qingtian scared him into submission with diplomacy and might. Zhuo Fan, on the other hand, did it through brutality. They were at such a level, not even the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix could mess with any of them. Luo Yunchang now picked up on Zhuo Fan's words. His display was so frightening that even she was dazed. No need. He only lacked manners when speaking with me. A slap is enough. Lin Shenfeng eased a breath, grateful even. Young Miss Luo, you're the best. But Luo Yunchang's next words had him on the verge of wetting himself from fear. As for the matter regarding Yunhai, Luo Yunchang pointed at her brother on the ground and then pleaded Zhuo Fan with big eyes. Steward Zhuo, they harassed your young master. You can't let this matter stand. Zhuo Fan's face hardened, noticing the half-grown-up Luo Yunhai had his leg broken and his bloodthirst spiked. Who did this, young master? Luo Yunhai shook his head helplessly. With Zhuo Fan missing God knows where, his sister had to take over clan matters. Her gentle and kind sister had gone through so many negotiations with her allies that it had changed her initially weak standpoint to the unbendable one of today. Having negotiated so much, patting down, faking and being stubborn came easy. She has turned as tough and as unreasonable as brother Zhuo. Especially sharp in using her female attributes to look weak and have others do the work for her, or drive a wedge. Now that Big Broj was back, she feels left out, yet still couldn't hide all the charm she gained from those years of handling the clan's negotiations. And Zhuo Fan? Everyone here knew Zhuo Fan never took things lying down. He was even more cunning and insidious than Luo Yunchang. Looking at it in a different way, Luo Yunchang's style was all thanks to Zhuo Fan's influence. Luo Yunhai, having lived in Dugu army, knew how to gauge a situation and when to stop. He waved, it's nothing, brother Zhuo. I'm happy to know you're all right and that you came back. What nothing? Yunhai, has the army messed with your head? Forget about enduring it like we did before. Brothers was back and we're not about to take this anymore. Right? Luo Yunchang turned to see a shocked Zhuo Fan looking back as if he didn't recognize her. She blushed and went back to being a meek and cute kid. Isn't that right? Young miss, have you lost it? Blinking, Zhuofan broke out in sweat. When did the young miss become so shrewd? But that didn't mean he didn't like the change. In a world where strong prey on the weak, compassion would only get one killed. Regardless of the fact whether it was a good reason to fight back or not, he still had to do it to some extent. That was Zhuofan's creed and style. The world wasn't ruled by reason but by might. Zhuofan's eyes flashed. Listen to your sister. When I was gone, I couldn't help even if I wanted to. But since I'm back, there will be no compromises, or I'd be a steward for nothing. They all could sense the thick bloodthirst in his voice. Luo Yunhai was silent. All men shuddered inside, admiring Zhuofan's flair, while the girls swooned. Even the always ticked-off peony overseer had to admit he struck a reliable figure with unmatched charm. Never mind. Yunhai must be troubled as well. Luo Yunchang sighed and once again changed her style as she clung to Zhuofan's arm and grumbled, "He did it. He broke Yunhai's leg." "Him again?" Raising an eyebrow, Zhuofan swiveled to Lin Xianfeng. "It seems a slap was too light for you." Swallowing dryly, Lin Xianfeng reeled 2 steps back, soaked to the bone in sweat. Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan were vigilant on either side of him. Of this generation, besides heaven-shaking Dragon Lord, only Zhuofan could instill such fear in them. Pa. Huangpu Qingtian's light step put him right in front of Zhuofan. Had enough. "Oh, you want to stop me?" Raising an eyebrow, Zhuofan showed his trademark evil grin. Huangpu Qingtian was as calm as ever, not minding Zhuofan's tone the least. "You're overthinking things. No one has managed to surpass me and you're no different." The crowd watched, all tensed up. Huangpu Qingtian is on the move. And this was the first time that he acted out of his own initiative to block someone. He didn't say it, but his stance was clear. He acknowledged Zhuofan's strength. Only when facing a true opponent would he stand in front of them. His earlier attacks were casual because none of them were worthy of his attention. Zhuofan was the exception. This only worked to put pressure on the crowd, eagerly watching the two monsters' first contact. Xie Qinshan was bitter and lonesome. All the martial fanatic in him ever wanted was to have a face-to-face match with heaven-shaking Dragon Lord. A pity he was sorely lacking in power. Lin Xuanfeng's group breathed easy. With the boss taking a stand, this kid will no longer threaten us. And yet, scratching his head, Zhuofan grinned at the casual Huangpu Qingtian. "You think so?" Whoosh! Zhuofan vanished. Huangpu Qingtian didn't have time to even appreciate the novelty of the situation as Zhuofan's chuckle came from 100 meters away. He was right before Lin Xianfeng. "Ha, kid, you hurt my young master. Pay up." Lin Xianfeng was scared witless. When did he get past Huangpu Qingtian and come here? He couldn't even get one step away as Zhuofan's purple lightning-enveloped leg hit him squarely in the gut. He flew for tens of meters. The purple lightning was torturing his body until he spat blood. His organs were in a seriously damaged state. SSS. An all-around gasp was heard. His allies, Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan, stood rooted in fear at Zhuo's display. But after Lin Xianfeng was kicked off, they struck back with a palm. Zhuofan vanished again, appearing next to the twirling Lin Xianfeng in the sky and clutched his leg with a demonic smirk. "Kid, you broke my young master's leg. I think taking away yours sounds pretty fair." Lin Xianfeng was panicking inside. He didn't even get to beg as Zhuofan followed through with his threat. Ghostly Dragon Claw. Rip. Blood spurted like a fountain, followed closely by Lin Xuanfeng's wail of agony. Zhuofan threw away the leg he just tore off. Huangpu Qingtian was shocked. This is the first time his face changed and he wanted to help. But then a voice came from behind him. "Young Master Huangpu, weren't you going to stop me? What are you doing showing me your back then?" Shuddering, Huangpu Qingtian felt a trickle of sweat on his scalp. He turned stiffly to find Zhuofan still there, calm and snickering. While on the other end, Yan Bangyi and Yu Yushan found that the target of their attack had been switched to each other. They were sent flying and blood spilled from their lips. However, that wasn't as important as the looks Zhuofan was getting. Zhuofan did all that in a breath. It wasn't a stretch to call it an instant. He came and went 3 times in that short time span. He kicked Lin Xianfeng, then ripped his leg off and finally came back to his original spot. He did all that to those 3 men. Because it all happened too fast, Huangpu Qingtian had no way of even intercepting. It was the same as Zhuofan proclaiming, "Nothing is out of my reach." The looks of shock were as if they saw an abomination. Even Huangpu Qingtian was doing it. For the first time ever, this man felt powerless. Chapter 256 Hindrance. Chapter 256 Hindrance. Wiping his brow by instinct, Huangpu Qingtian seemed calm, but turning to Zhuo Fan, he had lost his casual stance and became grave. Although he was a very conceited person, it didn't stop him from admitting that today he had met his match. It seems I can't let my guard down around you. Huangpu Qingtian's tone dropped and he stared at Zhuo Fan like a hunter. Grinning, Zhuo Fan said, "Oh, so that's what you've been missing so far? Are you ready now?" With another creepy grin, Zhuo Fan was gone. He popped before Yen Bongyi and slapped him while cackling, "Then I'll go after your sidekick's head this time." Yen Bongyi panicked. He never thought Zhuo Fan would pick on him. He got flustered while defending and released his poison. Since when could a hastily made plan repel Zhuo Fan's long-ready palm strike? Moreover, his poison hardly worked on the likes of Zhuo Fan, who could just use demon transformation art to dispel it. But before his attack could land, Zhuo Fan squinted and was gone. Boom. Huangpu Qingtian was looking at rubble. It was where Zhuo Fan and the two girls had stood but was now littered with dust. Zhuo Fan reappeared 100 meters away holding the girls while giving heaven-shaking Dragon Lord the evil eye. Huangpu Qingtian snickered back, "Like I said, you can't get past me." Zhuo Fan clenched his jaw in his fists. Huangpu Qingtian was no muscle brain and quite cunning as well. Zhuo Fan wanted to relieve Yen Bongyi of his cumbersome head as an affront to this man. But this guy knew he couldn't give chase and settled for targeting Luo Yunchang and Xuening Xiang. Forced to save them regardless of how fast one was, he had to abandon his tricks. Yen Bongyi was scared out of his mind as he watched them. He didn't want his fate to have such an untimely ending. The fright was so intense, he felt he had lost a decade of his lifespan. Yu Yushan was affected as well, seeing the two dragons on the brink of a war, and bolted. Only the crippled Lin Xianfeng was left behind wailing on the ground. Not that anyone had a mind to pay him any attention when they were focused on the two monsters. They all wanted to know who was going to be the champion in the esoteric debate. Anticlimactic as it were, finding the results so early. Holding a girl in each arm, Zhuo Fan's eyes glared with anger at Huangpu Qingtian. If earlier he was just messing around, he was now focused. The girls caught onto the situation and ran far away to not disturb their battle. Huangpu Qingtian grinned in excitement, sensing the change in Zhuo Fan. Facing an opponent like Zhuo Fan couldn't be more thrilling. Wrapped in a golden light, his power surged and he was putting pressure even on Chu Qingqing's group despite how far they were. Huangpu Qingtian's power dominated the scene, just like how a king showed his presence. Zhuo Fan's stance paled somewhat, but the faint black energy rolling about, the flickers of purple in his eyes, spoke of a deep power laying hidden, waiting for the emperor to come close so he could wring his neck. It gave everyone a feeling of danger never sensed before. The onlookers felt their heart in their throats, yet they couldn't budge an inch. Imperial Tyrant Body Art. Huangpu Qingtian shouted and 9 golden dragons twisted around him before shooting for Zhuo Fan. Seen from afar, it was as if the sky was coming down to pulverize the earth. Such mighty power could be felt even by the audience. Is this how much of a freak he has become? Is this the level of Huangpu Qingtian's profound ranked martial art? All swallowed dryly in shock, waiting nervously for Zhuo Fan's reaction. Laughing, Zhuo Fan's eyes had a golden ring with purple lightning streaking in them and charged as well. Roar. A draconic roar followed the image of a black dragon growing around Zhuo Fan. But the streaks of purple lightning around it caused the earth to rumble incessantly. It was as if the end of days was coming. While others cried in shock, Huangpu Qingtian's eye trembled, because of the power Zhuo Fan displayed. This martial art was no weaker than his 9th stage of Imperial Tyrant Body Art. As far as the eyes could see, the two mighty powers created a stark and conflicting contrast. Huangpu Qingtian was bathed in golden glow, like an emperor gracing the world with his presence. Zhuo Fan, however, was in the form of a black dragon wrapped in purple lightning, threatening to tear the world asunder. If Huangpu Qingtian was a natural-born emperor, Zhuo Fan was his antithesis, a necrotic dragon ready to defy any ruling that was imposed on him. These two are fated enemies? Xie Tianshang sighed. The others nodded. They were unclear, however, who was it that would come out on top. Heaven-shaking Dragon Lord or soaring demonic dragon. They all looked perturbed at this scene. Perhaps the esoteric debate would be cut short here and now. Perhaps Regent Estate's millennium-long reign would come to an end. The 6 houses were witnessing history in the making. Soaring demonic dragon. Imperial tyrant body art. Roar. With 2 mighty roars, Zhuofan and Huangpu Qingtian's dragons were on a collision course. But a third roar resonated from between them, followed by a blue glow. The 2 were forced to slow down their attacks. Because the blue glow came from none other than the second of 4 pillars, Marshal Dugu Zhantian's 6th grade spiritual weapon, dragon-slaying crescent blade. A mighty figure drifted from the sky and landed between the 2. He caught the 2's wrists and flung them into the air. Bam! Zhuofan and Huangpu Qingtian's outrageously powerful martial arts hit nothing, and instead each of them were buried in rubble. When they crawled out and got their wits about them, the aged and mighty Dugu Zhantian stood in all his majestic form before them. I will have no grudge fights in my Dragon Cloud City. You 2 bastards take me for air? Dugu Zhantian's eyes snapped on Huangpu Qingtian, causing his breath to catch in his throat. He was prideful but no fool. He was overbearing among peers, and even if he skipped stages he'd only fight the average Radiant stage expert. In the face of Dugu Zhantian, the general who reeked of blood and battle, he was subdued. I won't ever violate Marshal Dugu's orders again. Huangpu Qingtian admitted his wrongs. His face was calm however, like a king's. Dugu Zhantian's anger had nowhere to vent since he didn't want to tangle with Regent Estate. So he turned to Zhuofan and barked, "Zhuofan, where do you think you're going?" The man in question was skulking away like a thief in the night. He sighed at having been caught, but putting on a bright smile the next instant he said, "Ha, Marshal Dugu, how's it going? Please show consideration for my young master. He's right over there." Cut the crap. I knew you were still alive and have been waiting for this. Dugu Zhantian mocked him the instant he spouted hypocrisies. But where did you run off to this time? What trouble have you stirred up? When did you arrive? And how is it that you're already giving me trouble? Today actually. Zhuofan scratched his head shyly. But then he squinted and pointed at Luo Yunhai. "Oh Marshal, this is totally not my fault. Look at my young master, your godson. Someone broke his leg. I was only doing my duty as the Luo clan's steward." Say what? Dugu Zhantian took in the sorry state this place was and found his 5 godsons on the ground, with Luo Yunhai feeble from the blood loss due to a broken leg. Dugu Zhantian's eyes went bloodshot as he roared, "Who did this? I'll never let you go." "They did it, Marshal Dugu. Please give our young master justice." Zhuofan pointed fingers instantly at Huangpu Qingtian of course. Zhuofan was the picture of a good servant having the backing of his faithful master. Luo Yunchang added her 2 cents in the form of a grieving sister. "Please Godfather, please give my brother justice." Taking a deep breath, Dugu Zhantian's eyes spat fire as he glared at Huangpu Qingtian. Chapter 257 Killing with Intent. Chapter 257 Killing with Intent. Huangpu Qingtian, why have you harmed my godsons? Dugu Zhantian barely contained the beast raging inside. Huangpu Qingtian was calm, because they were in my way. And why were they in your way? They carried out Marshal's orders to prevent me from having a grudge fight. Tightening his fists, Dugu Zhantian's eyes spat fire. In other words, they aren't at fault here. No, they aren't. Dugu Zhantian was about to blow a gasket. Huangpu Qingtian said coldly, "I also said that they are not fit to enter a grudge fight with me, not when they're so weak. Therefore it does not fall into defying Marshal's order. As for my fight with Steward Zhua, that was indeed a grudge fight. But your 5 sons were already down by that point. So it can be said that they weren't hurt from doing their duty." Huangpu Qingtian knew Marshal Dugu was a man of integrity, so he used sophistry, saying that the 5 tigers had voluntarily, and of their own volition, stepped in his way and he thus inadvertently harmed them while running through them. Although pedantic, Dugu Zhantian was no moron to not notice the way he shifted blame. His eyes only grew colder as his knuckles popped. "What you're saying is that my godsons were wounded without your intention." "Precisely so. They ran into me and wounded themselves." Huangpu Qingtian jutted his chin and spoke righteously. "And what of my 5th godson? What happened to his leg? And don't go saying he broke his leg running into you." Dugu Zhantian's eyes were bloodshot, his voice rumbling and thick with bloodthirst. Shaking his head, Huangpu Qingtian said, "That wasn't me, it was Lin Shenfeng. Out of respect for you, Marshal, I was extremely lenient on your godsons." "Where's that Lin Shenfeng then? I have a score to settle with him." Dugu Zhantian's eyes darted around. With a slow stretch of the hand, a finger pointed out the gasping Lin Xianfeng. Huangpu Qingtan said, "Marshal, there's no need for that now." Steward Zhua had, in front of everyone, taken matter into his own hands on behalf of his master. Is Marshal still going to continue? What? Dugu Zhantian spotted the pool of blood in which the pale face of the crippled Lin Xianfeng lay. His anger washed away in an instant. The guy was on his last leg, quite literally, given the circumstances. And even if saved, he'd be left to waste. His fate was far worse than his godson's. He suddenly felt awkward even in the wrong. As if he was the accuser in this case, especially when they were worse off than his side by a dozen times. Zhuofan of course didn't think so. Availing of Dugu Zhantian's presence, he was giving his very best in blowing this sky high. "Oh Marshal, don't listen to his lies. You have no idea of the cruelty and harassment he put us through. When I arrived, the four had ganged up on my young master, humiliating and trampling him. My loyalty to my master is unquestionable, coming to his rescue at once. But I was also a victim of their assault. It was impossible for me to fight the four alone, leaving me riddled with wounds. Out of carelessness and sheer coincidence, they made a mistake and lost a leg. But we are the victims here, we were the ones abused. Please give us justice, Marshal." Zhuofan's voice took a mournful and stuttering tone, filled with pain and agony. "They saw our clan small and weak and decided to harass us. They are low and despicable people." Everyone there spurted blood. Even Huangpu Qingtian's face twitched. Even he, with his upbringing, was finding it hard not to flip out. What's with this guy? He twists everything. Although cunning, his speech was based on sophistry. Yet never had he seen someone of Zhuofan's ilk, running his mouth and spouting such outrageous lies. "You rotten bastard. Look around you. Look at the witnesses. How can you be so despicable?" Despite his perfectly reasonable thinking, Luo Yunchang also picked this time to add oil to the fire. Steward Zhua downplayed it slightly out of worry for the Luo clan, but this is indeed the situation. "Please help us, Godfather." With another round of blood from the crowd, all eyes were on Luo Yunchang. The hell? What is young Miss Luo doing copying Steward Zhua? Sigh, another one falls under Zhuofan's bad influence. It was followed by a round of sighs and head shaking. "Oh, you poor thing. Coming from an upright clan yet unable to escape this man's devious corruption." Luo Yunchang and Zhuofan shared a sly grin. Face twitching, Dugu Zhantian already had a taste of Zhuofan's grandstanding and wasn't buying it this time. Then again, this is the perfect chance to get back at Regent Estate. "So," Dugu Zhantian nodded, "I see, Huangpu Qingtian. I have banned grudge fights and yet you all started harassing the weak with numbers. A much viler act than a mere grudge fight. Is this what you thought of my orders? I will take this matter to each of your houses and get a thorough explanation from them." "Marshal, you only heard his side." Huangpu Qingtan was flustered for the first time. Raising an eyebrow, Dugu Zhantian's eyes gleamed. "Oh, one-sided? All right then, let's see what the witnesses say." Dugu Zhantian turned to the ones on the ground and asked, "What Zhuofan said, is it true?" They looked at each other, clearly getting his drift. Since Dugu Zhantian was siding with Zhuofan, of course they nodded. Especially the 5 tigers of Tianyu. These guys were quite frank and upright but not dumb. Of course they'd help their kin. Face twitching, Huangpu Qingtian was swept by anger. "They're clearly aiming for us." "Marshal, I thought you were a righteous man, but now I see." Huangpu Qingtian clenched his fists and jaw. With a bright smile, Dugu Zhantian mocked, "See what? You heard them. Is there anything you would like to add?" "Humph, they are clearly siding with Zhuofan while on our side Lin Xianfeng had his leg ripped out." Huangpu Qingtian was finding it hard to restrain his towering anger, evident from his loud voice. Dugu Zhantian roared back, "You have one victim while they are all down. So whose side is the real victim here? Who was it that harassed others with their power? Are you so damn blind?" Huangpu Qingtian's eyes twitched. He had never been so furious in his life. Most of all, never ever had he been taken advantage of. Yet here, against Zhuofan, he could do nothing as the man had spun a trap around him. Even Dugu Zhantian was against him. He, who had always seen himself as a king and emperor, was now reaching the limits of his patience. "Soaring demonic dragon, your title sure is apt in going after me, heaven-shaking dragon lord. Humph, we'll just have to see how you will end." Huangpu Qingtian squinted then up and left. He knew arguing any longer would be a waste of time. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow and pointed at him. Marshal Dugu, you're just gonna let him go? He just threatened me. My poor little life is on the line here. A sudden ripple spread and Dugu Zhantian jumped in front of Zhuo Fan, releasing a ripple of his own. A boom reverberated as the space warped visibly. Huangpu Qingtian snorted at Zhuo Fan in anger. Soaring demonic dragon, you're lucky this time. But when the esoteric debate starts, when the seven houses battle, hope you'll have the same amount of luck then. And he took his two allies while dragging Lin Shenfeng with them. Dugu Zhantian looked at him in shock. This kid, he is a peak profound heaven expert yet can use killing with intent that only a radiant stage expert can use. He truly is the #1 talent in Chanyu. His future is limitless. The others jerked in fright. Huangpu Qingtian had long surpassed them. He was on a whole different level. The next time they meet they might not even come out alive. Against killing with intent, no amount of speed would help. Zhuo Fan only chuckled, a mere bluff. Dugu Zhantian towered behind him and cuffed him. What damn bluff? That's power. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? I know you're a body cultivator and perhaps can win in a brawl against him, but that was a soul attack, killing with intent. You'd never even realize when your life was taken from you. I see no way for you to win against that monster. Dugu Zhantian eyed them and sighed. The others frowned and sighed as well. Zhuo Fan had given a thread of hope to all, but now it was all crushed to dust. No one beneath a radiant stage could survive an intent attack. Zhuo Fan had his freaky ability but not even that would save him. Yet the man in question hardly cared. He had stopped caring for as long as 5 years ago. Chapter 258 Conscription. Chapter 258 Conscription. Dugu Zhantian had some soldiers take the wounded to the marshal's residence for immediate treatment. Yet none of them noticed the spindly figure further away watching them. Upon closer look, one would identify him as unwanted contriver Lung Wuchang, Regent Estate's steward. Lung Wuchang twirled his mustache as he kept watching, Zhuo Fan in particular. This kid is not as heartless as I thought. It had been 6 hours since they arrived at the marshal's temporary residence in Dragon Cloud City. Time in which the wounded were placed in a side wing and administered pills. Luo Yunchang and Ninger, the only ones who came out unharmed from this ordeal, were the caretakers. As for Zhuo Fan, he was there as well, expressing his heartfelt thanks to his 3 paralyzed allies. Thank you all for such hard work. If it weren't for your help, our clan's line would have been severed. Zhuo Fan held each of their hands. Long Jie and Long Kuei felt odd seeing the kind and gentle smile on his face. They had been arduous in cultivating these past 5 years, just so they could bridge the gap between them and this monster. And yet he just showed up and instead of getting closer, they had only fallen farther behind. Even though this guy was still a shameless bone-tempering cultivator, how could his power be classified as one? As this was Long Xingyun's first time seeing this freak in the flesh and in action, he was quite moved. Brother Zhuo, now I see what my father was thinking. Only after seeing you have I realized how much time I've been wasting. Sigh, youth is wasted on the young. But even so, you should live your life to the fullest and take some time off to enjoy it. Haha, don't take it to heart. Zhuo Fan patted his shoulder. But the more he paid attention, the more Long Xingyun felt it was fake. Is this your way of consoling me? Xie Tianshang's eyes were filled with fighting spirit, wishing nothing more than to jump on his legs and have a go with the man. Zhuo Fan, once I'm healed, how about we have a match? Zhuo Fan blinked, completely not getting what he was going for. We just met and never have I gotten on your bad side, so why do you want to fight me? Ignore him. My elder brother is a martial fanatic. He wants to fight any expert that catches his eye. Xie Tianyang jabbed. Having known Zhuo Fan for so long, he had no qualms whatsoever. Zhuo Fan nodded. Ah, another one. I see. Just like elderly. It's best that I keep my distance. He wasn't so idle as to waste time sparring with a martial fanatic every day. So Zhuo Fan gave him a wide berth, going over Xie Tianyang. Hey wait, you didn't answer me? Xie Tianshang watched Zhuo Fan with a fervent gaze. He was sorely wishing right now that he could just jump and exchange hundreds of moves with Zhuo Fan. But would Zhuo Fan listen? He treated martial fanatics as basket cases. Tangling with him would only net Zhuo Fan a huge waste of time. And so, Xie Tianshang's grumblings were firmly and undoubtedly ignored. Zhuo Fan walked next to his little brother instead, and knocked his head a few times. Brother Xie, you did a good job today. I must say, you sure gave your all for Ninger. Zip it. My life belongs to Ninger. Rolling his eyes, Xie Tianyang was quite frank, making the nearby Xuaningxiang blush and glare back. She was clearly signaling not to spout such things around Zhuofan. Zhuofan laughed carefree. Xie Tianyang's eyes turned serious, his voice tinted with worry. Zhuofan, do you always stand out wherever you go? You've got my Ninger to swoon over you every time she sees you. Can't you tone it down a little so I can have a shot? Shuddering, Zhuofan remained silent. Xie Tianyang seemed to be joking, but how could Zhuofan not sense the worry within? If this went on, the three's relationship would become more complicated or worse, break apart. Zhuofan sighed after a moment. Sorry, that's how heaven's made me. If I don't show off, who else will? Just focus on getting better. Patting his shoulder, Zhuofan left with a stiff smile. Xie Tianyang laughed dejectedly. He knew Zhuofan had yet to make a decision on this and was making a tactical retreat. Or was it an attack? Although he made himself seem ruthless, who could guard against feelings creeping up on oneself? He went around spreading thanks to all the clan's helpers, including but not limited to the 4 tigers. But the tigers saw him as an enemy, something he couldn't wrap his head around as to why. I stole no wife of yours, so what the hell is with the glares? But when he reached the final patient, he spun on his leg and walked away. Stop. The charming voice came from Chu Qingqing, who was watching him in reproach. Why you aren't going to even talk to me? Iris and Peony overseers were staring daggers, as if accusing him of abandoning his wife. Thank you Drifting Flowers Edifices, for helping our clan in our desperate hour. That's not it and you know it. Chu Qingqing cut him off. I just want to know why. Why didn't you see me one last time before leaving Drifting Flower City? Steeling himself, Zhuofan said, I killed and took what I needed. I fulfilled my goal and had no reason to stay. No reason at all? Chu Qingqing blinked. Her pretty eyes demanded an answer. Zhuofan didn't know how to respond. Then a sudden giggle came. Steward Zhua, Marshal is calling you. Leave things here to me. Luo Yunchang came over with a smile, faking obliviousness. Saved by the bell, Zhuofan grabbed the excuse like his lifeline and bobbed his head. Then I'll go right now. Young miss, take good care of them. And he was gone, despite the doe eyes Chu Qingqing was giving him. Luo Yunchang turned a hard stare at Chu Qingqing. Edifice Lord Chu, Steward Zhua is a boor. If he has hurt you with his words or actions, please forgive him. I'll be taking care of you in his place. Luo Yunchang's words were full of propriety and good nature, but the true meaning was, he's mine. Chu Qingqing had taken care of Drifting Flowers Edifices for so many years since an even younger age than Luo Yunchang. How could she not hear the veiled threat? She laughed coldly, you're far too kind. Zhuofan's transgressions are too grave to measure. How could I possibly ask clan head to take the blame? I will have Zhuofan supply me with the appropriate resolution. But thank you for your offer, young miss. This is between me and Zhuofan. You've got no business here, so scram. Sparks were flying off between them soon after. The others looked away from the cat fight and lamented. Sigh, this is a woman's war. It's best we don't get caught in between. But Xuaningxiang looked on in distress, feeling somewhat excluded. Going back to the culprit behind all this, Zhuofan was speeding towards Marshall's house across from the wounded ward in jubilation. Perfect timing. He was truly caught in the trap back there. Who would have thought facing Chu Qingqing was more exhausting than fighting Huangpu Qingtian? He'd rather go against 100 Huangpu Qingxians than see Chu Qingqing again. But when he entered Marshall's home, the old guy laughed heartily, putting him on high alert. Haha, you came, kid. Sit, I have something to tell you. Dugu Zhantian laughed and gestured at the chair nearby. Zhuofan was on guard as he eased into the chair. Dugu Zhantian's critical eye from his seat of honor had Zhuofan's hair stand on end. Oh Marshal, you wanted to see me? Zhuofan broke the silence. Dugu Zhantian grinned. It's nothing much, just your conscription. Conscription? Zhuofan shook his head vehemently. No. I'm not army material. Find someone else. Glaring, Dugu Zhantian's beard trembled as he cursed. Cut the crap. Who on earth is born a soldier? Even that brat Yunhai got trained into shape by me. With your talents, a year tops and you'll be taking my job. If you're so confident, go find someone else. Why do you want me? Zhuofan shook his head. Dugu Zhantian sighed and his eyes were glazed with worry. It's easy to train an army, but it's so hard to find a good array master. In the field of war, There are many array masters using their skills in the form of formations. We are sorely lacking in array masters, and that has made our recent losses disastrous. Don't look at me. I'm a meathead. I don't know anything when it comes to arrays or formations. Zhuofan made up a lie. But Dugu Zhantian wouldn't have it. He had looked into the kid before calling him. Such a flimsy lie wouldn't fly with him. Oh please. I already know everything. Your old clan head has long been dead and you are the one running the show. Including the 4 5th grade arrays. Dugu Zhantian's eyes shined when he reached this point. He was sorely lacking an outstanding array master and wanted to have Zhuofan without fail. The latter felt trapped in the old guy's gaze and didn't know how to get away. He felt like crying. This was exactly why he wanted to slink through Dragon Cloud City and never cross paths with the marshal. He already saw this coming and wanted to avoid it for as long as possible. Chapter 259, The God of War's Fright. Chapter 259, The God of War's Fright. Oh Marshal, I truly cannot do this. Please find someone else. Zhuofan shook his head and rose to leave. Whoosh. In a flash of blue, the dragon-slaying crescent blade was nailed in front of him, followed by, why? Zhuofan was in despair. Isn't it obvious? I don't want to. Since he was asked for a reason, Zhuofan had to oblige. So he stuck out his neck and refused. They say that a good man doesn't enlist. Bullshit. In reply to his most eloquent words, Dugu Zhantian spat in his face. Those are the words of friggin' morons. Zhuofan, you are a wise man, so how can you lower yourself to a commoner's thinking? Also, did you not take the helm of the Luo clan after the clan head's death, looking after the siblings? Why then? I only see loyalty. Kid, your actions speak for yourself, of your loyalty and devotion. So what's the problem with being loyal to one's nation? Isn't that the same? It should be the same thing to you. Why do you insist on avoiding enlisting? The walls were quite thin here and the wounded next door heard Dugu Zhantian's raving loud and clear. Dugu Zhantian wants Zhuofan in the army. But can he reign in this soaring demonic dragon? Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingqing thought this as well. Even though their glaring never faltered, their ears were idle to pick up on the marshal's shouts. Taking a deep breath, Zhuofan gritted his teeth. This old guy just won't quit. And sighed, Marshal Dugu, we are neither friends nor enemies. Please refrain from dragging me into this hell. How is the army and fighting for your nation hell? Dugu Zhantian was stunned. Zhuofan squinted and roared, as they say, after 3 years in the army, even an ugly broad would look like a courtesan. This will deal a devastating blow to my standards and ruin my prospects to raise a family. The girls in the wounded ward stifled their giggles. While Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingqing sure had an active imagination, evident by their red cheeks. Then their eyes met and jealousy reared its ugly head. Which one of us is that punk going to take to raise a family? The 4 tigers of Tianyu and Luo Yunhai were awkward to say the least. They'd been in the army for 5 years. Did that mean their standards were out of whack? But Dugu Zhantian's shout came soon after to save their image. More crap. Where the hell did you hear that nonsense? How could 3 years lead to such a drastic change? The 5 in the ward nodded. Well said, Marshal. Dugu Zhantian then followed with, that only happens after 5 years. My 4 godsons need 6 years by the looks of them to see any girl a babe. As for Yunhai, it's too soon to tell. The 5 wanted to crawl into a corner and die. The feel of the others' eyes on them only made it worse. Godfather, enlist him if you want to, but why in God's name are you dragging us into this? It was fine and all if these old army stories helped, but all you are doing is making yourself look bad. Us as well. What a rotten godfather. The 5 sighed and buried their heads in the pillows. Dugu Zhantian was being serious now. None of that matters. Didn't I tell you? You'll be a soldier for 1 year then be my staff officer. Those things don't apply to you. Why not make me one from the start? Zhuofan scratched his head. Dugu Zhantian squinted and snapped, impossible. In my army one needs to do military service. One can only be promoted based on merits. How can I just make you one from the start? Everyone will object. But don't worry, once in the corps, I'll give you plenty of chances to show your ability and you'll be promoted in no time. Zhuofan sighed. Seeing Dugu Zhantian so stubborn like a hustler, he left Zhuofan without a way to deal with him. Fine, but on one condition. Zhuofan nodded in the end. Dugu Zhantian's eyes sparkled. Name it? I'll do my best to accommodate you. Oh Marshal, would you be so kind as to lend me your status for a short month? I could get used to being a marshal myself. You think the army is a game? Dugu Zhantian shook his head, but then he eyed Zhuo Fan skeptically. What for? What else? To sweep the land and pacify the empire. Zhuo Fan roared his loyalty. Dugu Zhantian said in a rush, stop messing around. This army can't move as you wish. It's fine. Won't I have the appropriate rank a year later? At that time I can just kill and smash whoever and whenever. Zhuo Fan giggled. Panicking inside, Dugu Zhantian now realized he had only paid attention to Zhuo Fan's talent and not his many remarkable feats. I can't take the same approach I took with Luo Yunhai when teaching him. Or when he gets the army at his beck and call, he'd leave the nation wide open for attack. His eyes were swiveling, unclear what choice was best here. No, I can't have him fly through the ranks. I'll have to stamp out his rebellious nature in the army. Zhuo Fan had a knowing grin. I know what you're planning. But no matter, I'm the best there is when it comes to roping someone to my side. It won't take me even a year to turn the 3 million Dugu army into the Zhuo army. At that point, being a general or not would hardly make a difference. You don't say. I am giving my all here, but who knows when we will have to face Regent Estate on the field of battle. But if you think you can wrest control of one of the 4 pillars, the Empire's army, then be my guest. Zhuo Fan laughed. I have never thought about it like that. But now, Marshal, you have to enlist me. Even if you have your whole army infected with gayness rather than some twisted broads, I'd still go for it. No. It seems someone had a change of heart. Dugu Zhantian was frantically shaking his hands and sweating buckets. That was close. I almost welcomed the devil with open hands. Granted he was talented, but if there was one thing he truly excelled at, it was blowing things out of proportion. In the off chance I can't tame him, the Dugu army will be under his thumb and will corrupt the Empire's greatest weapon. I better reconsider whether to let this guy in. Dugu Zhantian said bashfully, Zhuo Fan, since you find enlisting to be such a pain, I won't force you. No, I think it'll be a blast, oh Marshal. No, I've never forced anyone to do anything in my life. It's best you stay and look after the Luo clan. Alright, the 3 house lords are here as well. I better go see them. What about my enlistment? Zhuo Fan shouted after the scampering Dugu Zhantian. Zhuo Fan watched the mighty and awe-inspiring Dugu turn into a scaredy cat with a snicker. I get far more out of developing the Luo clan than stealing your 3 million army. Then again, having Dugu army by my side is not bad either. Zhuo Fan mused, his eyes flashing. Dugu Zhantian just left the room and turned to the wounded ward. It seemed that Sword Marquis' abode, Veiled Dragon Pavilion, and Drifting Flowers Edifice's leaders were also present. They all saluted Dugu Zhantian. Thank you, Marshal, for coming to their rescue. No thanks needed. This is my responsibility. Although someone else saved them in the end while I was only a mediator. Dugu Zhantian waved. The leaders chuckled. Grandmother then frowned. Marshal, I was meaning to ask. Are you intent on conscripting Zhuo Fan? Could I ask you to postpone it until after the esoteric debate? Of course. As for conscripting, I still need to consider it. There's no need to fret. Dugu Zhantian stated. Zhuo Fan's vision of the army had scared the crap out of him. The kid seems capable of anything. He may very well have a way of turning the Dugu army into his personal army. And he wasn't about to give his army away just for one array master. Dugu Zhantian was thankful he came back to his senses and avoided a disaster. Zhuo Fan took this moment to enter and greet the house lords. The 3 nodded in reply. They could finally breathe easier seeing him safe and sound. To be blunt, there would be no Luo clan without Zhuo Fan, the truest underdog. Luo clan wouldn't stand a chance in the esoteric debate, whether as an ally or enemy. But with Zhuo Fan back in town, the clan was in full force. Steward Zhuo, the entire Luo clan is injured. We can't make it to tomorrow's fight. Will you, as their steward, step forth? Grandmother smiled widely, hoping to see the miracle that was Zhuo Fan in action after a 5-year break. Shrugging, Zhuo Fan said, Of course, it is my duty to represent the Luo clan. It is time for the Luo clan to stand abreast with all of you. That will depend on Steward Zhuo's first battle. Long Yifi raised an eyebrow. They all looked at each other and burst out laughing, all eager to see Zhuo Fan put on a good show tomorrow. Chapter 260, We Will Kill Zhuofan. Chapter 260, We Will Kill Zhuofan. The next day, Dragon Cloud City's fighting stage was enveloped by a roaring crowd shouting their cheers. On the stage, two youths stood thrilled and panting, surrounded by either dead or wounded people. The winner of today's battle hails from Crescent Sword City, the Shui clan. They are advancing to the final battle. A profound heaven expert stepped on stage and gestured at the youths. The crowd exploded with applause, raising the excitement of the two. They left the stage and walked to their cheering clan. Big brother, second brother, congratulations. Xuaningxiang gave them a hug and a sweet smile. The two were Shui Gang and Shui Lin. After the horrors of Blue Expanse City, Xie Tianyang saved them and their clan became Sword Marquis Abode's vassal. It was the only way they could have joined the esoteric debate. Ganger Liner, you've done well. You are now ready to join the final battle and help Sword Marquis Abode's young masters in their fight. Shui Wanlong laughed with pride. Remember, never let down our clan and protect the two young masters. Patriarch Shui Dingtian nodded at the side. Thanks to Xie Tianyang, their clan was under Sword Marquis Abode's wing, cared for and well supplied. But this left them uneasy, and they were going to use this chance to repay their help. This was the reason for joining the esoteric debate. Shui Gang and Shui Lin nodded, filled with battle spirit. Xie Tianyang stood next to Xuaningxiang, sighing, Uncle, why did you let the brothers join such a cruel battle? This time's battle will be far more deadly and vicious than any of the past ones. I fear. Second young master, I have made my decision. We cannot go on receiving Sword Marquis Abode's grace without giving anything back. Please give us this chance to show our gratitude. Shui Wanlong cupped his hands. Xie Tianyang sighed. The profound heaven expert on the stage suddenly said, the next fight will be between Drifting Flower City's Dong clan and Flood City's Yu clan. Two familiar figures walked on stage. Xie Tianyang's eyes brightened. Who knew we'd see them here? Aren't they brother Dong and sister Wana? You know them as well? Xuaningxiang was startled. Xie Tianyang looked at her instead. Ninger, how do you know them? Drifting Flowers Edifices and Sword Marquis Abode are allies. We met when the two houses gathered for negotiation. Brother Dong is somewhat frivolous but Wana is very nice. Ninger smiled. How do you know them? Disciples of the seven houses hardly ever meet with people from second-rate clans. We met in Drifting Flower City. I hear that Dong Xiaowan and the kid have something going on between them. Xie Tianyang grinned, thinking of having a little payback. Xuaningxiang looked closer at Dong Xiaowan and muttered, no wonder she never said anything when the topic about who she likes came up. Correct, the two Dong siblings were those Dongs. Because of their ties with Zhuofan back in Drifting Flower City and having gotten familiar with Drifting Flowers Edifice's leaders, the Dong clan had been on a swift rise. They had long outstripped the title of vassal clan and moved to Drifting Flower City to become their trusted aide. The old master of the Dong clan couldn't be happier and stated that they had to go and see their most treasured benefactor in the flesh. Of course, such a thing wasn't so easy to achieve, not with how busy Zhuofan was. If he wasn't blowing something up, he was beating the life out of someone. The likes of him could hardly squeeze a meeting between his murderous rampage and endless mayhem. Thanks to Drifting Flowers Edifice's help, Dong Qianba had entered the profound heaven stage, displaying his majestic air on today's stage. In but half an hour, he and his sister won over their opponents and arrived next to their clansmen and friends. Young Master Xie, Uncle Xie, Sir Xie, Brother Xie, how do you do? Dong Qianba cupped his hands in pride. Dong Xiaowan bowed as well with a smile. The others nodded, while Shui Gang had eyes only for Dong Xiaowan and her charming smile. Everyone could tell what he was thinking. Brother Shui, how have you been? I never thought our clans would enter the final battle. We will be fighting alongside it seems, ha. A portly man came over. Dong Qianba and Dong Xiaowan cupped their hands. Dad. Shui clan greeted in kind, but only when he saw Xie Tianyang did the old man greet back. He was the Dong clan head. Dong clan head pointed at Shui Gang. Young master is of great talent. Could I be so bold as to ask if you're married? No. Shui Dingtian smiled, his meaning clear. Dong clan head nodded and smiled at his daughter. What a fine coincidence, neither is my daughter. I find our clans so friendly that I was wondering. Dad. Dong Xiaowan gave him the stink eye and was sullen. Xuaningxiang could see herself in her and shook her head. The two already had someone and were not going to just change their minds at the drop of the hat. Meanwhile, the Profound Heaven expert on the stage said, "The next fight is between Sunspire City's Hong clan and Blue Expanse City's Sun clan." Shuddering, the Shui clan turned to the stage. Blue Expanse City used to be their turf while being Hell Valley's vassal. Since betraying their patron, Blue Expanse City fell under another clan's jurisdiction. Bluntly put, the Sun clan was their replacement, Hell Valley's brand new lapdog. The Sun clan only sent a man and a woman to fight against 50 bone-tempering experts led by 2 Profound Heaven cultivators. Such power among second-rate clans made it a seeded clan, closely approaching the qualifications to be a first-rate clan. Against such strength, the Sun clan sent merely 2, a really odd pair. Their eyes released a bloody glow, and closely resembled monsters rather than humans. Not even their appearances could be distinguished. The sight of them standing there sent shivers among many, as if they were demons who sprang out of hell. But upon closer look, they were only peak bone-tempering cultivators. Hee, 2 peak bone-tempering cultivators want to mess with 50 experts? The leading youth snickered. From your demonic look, living must have been hard and you've come for the sweet release of death, right? Ha ha ha. The others laughed as well. That demonic man, however, was wrapped in black energy as it suddenly jumped from him with a roar. A veritable fountain of blood bloomed, while the Hong clan youth fell with a perplexed look. He was still wondering how a peak bone-tempering cultivator killed him. SSS. The others gasped. Hong clan's laughter died and watched the pair of enemies in shock. How could a fresh Profound Heaven expert die in one blow? A sneak attack for sure. With a shout, the 50 men from Hong clan stormed the pair. The two only had a creepy grin as they turned into black mist and roamed among them. The slaughter began. Not of the pair, but of those 50 experts as the 2 crazed monsters were unleashed upon them. Wails, sobbing, and horror grated on the audience's ears. In just 15 minutes they were the only ones standing while the corpses around them had their throats ripped out. Blood soaked into the arena and the dead stare of the bodies gave a glimpse into the cruelty they had just suffered. Xuaningxiang had long since covered her eyes. Xie Qinyang's brow was furrowed. What made these guys act with such brutality? The girl on stage suddenly snapped her head back and pointed at the Shui clan with a nasty grin. Traitor of Hell Valley, you will die in the final battle by our hands. None of you will live. We will cleanse the Hell Valley of its traitors. Your time will soon come. Hi. The Shui clan felt a shiver run down their very core. This pair was way too abnormal. Not just the sons but even the father and patriarch felt their hair stand on end. Xie Tianyang stepped up and shielded Xuaningxiang as he roared, "Stop barking. I would like to see you try and touch the Shui clan." Second young Master Xie, our house lord's son will deal with you and we will deal with the traitorous Shui clan. Snickering, the girl threw her head back. The creepy way she talked and her posture only worked to deepen one's fear. The man next to her said, "Don't forget our main objective, the Luo clan. Shui clan is just a side dish." You're after the Luo clan? Xuaningxiang was worried. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang felt relief. A few days back he would have been worried as well, but not now. Because the Luo clan had recovered their pillar, the demon Archon Zhuofan. With him around, these weirdos looked like imps in comparison. Going after the Luo clan was a death sentence. But the man saw Xuaningxiang's distress and reveled in it. Yes, we will find the Luo clan and slaughter them all. Especially that Zhuofan. We will tear him limb from limb. Xuaningxiang's pure heart was stuck in her throat, vexed over Zhuofan's safety. Brother Zhuo, 2 bad men are after you. While Xie Tianyang almost burst out laughing. Dude, have you even seen Zhuofan? Have you seen his power? What is your boasting based on hot air? Not even a moron will believe such a lame joke. But then he saw Xuaningxiang sick with worry and amended his thoughts with a twitch of his cheek. Ninger excluded. She was no moron, just naive. Chapter 261 Limelight. Chapter 261 Limelight. Look, Hell Valley's men are here. Someone from the crowd shouted and everyone turned their heads to see Yuanshan and his elder detail. He stood on the highest point with a somber look, flanked by Yu Ming and the rest of their other disciples participating in the final battle. As this place was the fighting grounds for third and second-rate clans, with how not even first-rate clans would come here to watch, least of all the 7 houses, there were no honorary seats for them. What stirred the biggest shock was the sudden appearance of Hell Valley, taking seat at the highest position. They could see the whole stage from there, but it was also a strategic position to emphasize the usual disdain the seven houses had for these puny clans. But what was up with this sudden arrival? Who had caught their eye? Were they going to enjoy the show alongside them, or was there a new star on the rise no one knew about? If it was the latter, who was this person and what was he capable of to garner such ostentatious audience? The crowd grew restless with their speculations. Sun Clan's creepy guy noticed Yuanshan's imposing figure and showed a morbid smile. See? Valley Lord, you came to personally watch us crush your clans. This is how much Hell Valley values us. Yeah, we're not like those Shui traders. Valley Lord finds us indispensable. Sun Clan's creepy girl showed a morbid smile herself. Shui Clan only gave the duo a cursory glance, while being concerned about Hell Valley's real intentions. Hell Valley came to cheer for the Sun Clan? How is that even possible when they have never shown such care for any vassal before? Xie Tianyang mocked, cocky brats, Yuanshan isn't so bored as to watch a couple of aberrations. Say that again. What else would Valley Lord you be here for? There's only us around who is Hell Valley's vassal. The girl roared. Xie Tianyang shrugged. The seven houses only ever cared about each other and never about some squirming ants trying to get some praise. You're disillusioned if you think he came here to cheer for you. And then another sudden cry of shock came, followed by another unexpected arrival. And while Hell Valley's men were emitting deadly auras, the newcomers were graceful women with thin veils. Drifting Flowers edifices. Grandmother was in the lead as Chu Qingqing was still nursing her wound. Behind her were her entire overseer contingent and the Drifting Flowers edifice's disciples participating in the final battle. Even Xiao Dandan was among them, darting her eyes around and looking for her special someone. Here comes another lovesick lass. That punk will be so annoyed, Xie Tianyang snickered. Dong Clan head puffed up his chest and took on a prideful air. Haha, I didn't expect Drifting Flowers edifice's overseers to come support us. Our Dong Clan is so cherished. We may be Drifting Flowers edifice's trusted aid, but to receive such care, ha. The guy was grinning from ear to ear and making the Shui clan envious. His position seemed to be so high that even the edifice lord came in person. Only Xie Tianyang sighed. It seems narcissism is an inherent trait of these vassals. Not just aberrations are susceptible to it but even normal people. What in the hell gave you the idea that the seven houses came to see you specifically? Then came the third cry of the day. Shui clansmen watched overwhelmed with joy. What? Because Sword Marquis abode Xie Xiaofeng was leading Xie Tianshang and his elders over. Patriarch Shui Dingtian was touched to the core as he showed off to the Dong clan head. Haha clan head, Sword Marquis abode values us quite a lot as well. Wait. He didn't get to finish his haughty words as Xie Tianyang interrupted him. Everyone, I know fully well my words may sound crass, but could you cool off for a second and stop with the self-important attitude? Those house lords haven't even looked at you once, so how can you say they've come for you? The sudden wake-up call made them realize the wisdom in his words. If not for us, then who? This was a fighting stage for the seven houses' vassals. Xie Tianyang shook his head. If there was anything the seven houses paid attention to besides each other, of course, was strength. Who else but that punk could stir up so many of them to come here? While they were vexed by this conundrum, Pil King Hall appeared with a fourth cry. Yen Bagong led Yen Bongi and Yen Fu with his elders over. They were soon followed by Mary Woods' house Lord Lin coming with his elders and a bouncing Lin Xianfeng. After a night of healing, Lin Xuanfeng's wound was closed. Even though he hopped about with a pale face, the audience was amazed. Is this forest fleeting dragon one of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Why does he have only 1 leg? How would he fleet through the forest now? Few were aware of the circumstances regarding forest fleeting dragon's misery. How the vile soaring demonic dragon ripped his leg clean off. But the biggest shock of all was what came next. The head of the 7 houses, Regent Estate. Huangpu Tianyuan was leading the group, with Regent Estate's steward, Lung Wuchang on his left, and his eldest, the head of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, heaven-shaking dragon Lord Huangpu Qingtian on his right. Behind them was a team of profound heaven elders, 30 in number. The frightening display made everyone's hair stand on end. The other 6 houses also paused at their entrance. Regent Estate's power was unquestionably the highest among the houses. It had the ambition to swallow the others for good reason. It would have been a waste of their might if they didn't aim for at least this much. Under the riveting gazes of the crowd, Huangpu Tianyuan made his way forward with a regal air and boundless power that stopped anyone from breathing within 300 meters. Only when Regent Estate took the foremost position did the man slowly withdraw his power, but the damage, or deterrence, was done. In his wake the people were left shivering and gasping. That was enough to rouse up even the narcissistic trio of clans from their arrogance. The presence of all the 7 houses had nothing to do with them at all. Thinking about what loudmouths they were seconds ago, they started blushing like crazy. The Dong, Shui, and even the Sun clan's aberrations were stiff and awkward. This only helped to fuel their curiosity. Why were they all here? For whom? Xie Tianyang knew it all along, of course. The profound heaven expert on the stage stood on pins and needles under the stare of all those mighty figures. He shakily took out the roster. He was the king of this stage, but not anymore. 'Cause now he was a bottom feeder among all these big shots. He swallowed down while shaking and shouted, "The next fight will be between Zephyr City's Wan clan and Windgaze City's Luo clan." Every head turned to the dark entrance of the stage to see the greatest underdog in this esoteric debate, Luo clan. Even though the Luo clan's 28 strong men were quite something, the more they advanced the harder it became. Case in point, they left the last battle while supporting each other. Their opponent, the Wan clan, was a renowned second-rate clan. It even had 3 profound heaven youths. The crowd was eagerly awaiting for the Luo clan, but their prospects at winning were slim at best. Tap tap tap. A light noise was heard as Luo Yunhai was coming out on crutches, leaning on his sister towards the stage. The crowd's shock passed and was replaced by sighs. They all saw Luo Yunhai's valor and might, fearless as a tiger. And this tiger was an indispensable force in the Luo clan's team. Yet now he had an unexplained wound, which only crippled their chance of victory even more. Wan clan's 20 strong men were already on the stage and were now snickering. Victory's ours. But then a plain figure slowly made itself noticed by walking behind the siblings. He caught the attention of all the houses. Regent Estate, Hell Valley, and their other 2 allies bore a deep hatred for Zhuofan. They suddenly released a deadly aura that made the audience shiver. It all makes sense now. The 7 houses came for him. Playing with his flickering thunder ring, Zhuofan walked without a care in the world. His deep gaze, his far-off look seemed to find everyone beneath him. This was how Zhuofan followed after Luo Yunchang, with a charming and faint smile. The biggest shock was received by those who didn't know Zhuofan. Who is he? Why are the 7 houses here for him? Dong Qianba and Dong Xiaowan went slack-jawed. They never ever thought they'd meet him here. Dong Xiaowan in particular, her gaze was filled with complicated emotions. Joy, sadness, and a hint of relief. Shui Wanlong and Shui Dingtian were shocked as well. They never thought that the young brat they met in All Beast Mountain Range would appear here. A soaring demonic dragon. The shout had caused another round of shock among the crowd as their eyes never strayed from Zhuofan. He is the Luo clan's strongest? The same soaring demonic dragon on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? The Luo clan's main force has come out in the open. The crowd watched eagerly, thrilled to witness a good show. Chapter 262 Cheerleaders/Groupies. Chapter 262 Cheerleaders/Groupies. Old Pang, stay here and look after them. Zhuofan spoke behind him to Captain Pang and the young guards before walking on stage alone. The crowd wondered, alone against Wan clan's 20 strongest. But then recalled that he had a title akin to the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and got excited at the prospect. This was what everyone wanted to see. The extent of power one man possessed to make the 7 houses pay so much attention to. Brother Zhua, fingers crossed. Xuaningxiang cheered with an adorable face. Staggering for a second there, Zhuofan waved back slightly with a smile. Dong Xiaowan waved as well, but found him not even noticing her and was peeved. Ninger, are you and Brother Zhua close? He saved my clan's lives. Xuaningxiang nodded, but then found Dong Xiaowan gloomy and mumbled, Sister Wanner, sorry. It's fine. He never even looked at me anyway. Dong Xiaowan shook her head sullen. Dong clan head gleaned something out of all of this and asked Dong Qianba, is that youth who I think it is? Dong Qianba nodded and sighed. His sister had been love-struck since back in Drifting Flower City. Her crush never spared her a glance, while she pined for him every moment. I can't tell if she is foolish or silly. Darling, good luck. Crush them all. A cute voice came from Drifting Flowers Edifice's side and slammed into the ears of the audience. Xiao Dandan was practically jumping in her seat, gesticulating wildly to make sure he saw her. Zhuo Fan held his head. What's this idiot doing here? Is Drifting Flowers Edifices so understaffed? How is she fit to join the Seven Houses' final battle with her cultivation? Cannon fodder is more like it. Pulling Xiao Dandan back down, Peony Overseer cursed. Why can't you act proper instead of some lovesick maiden? Humph, me and Darling have already tied the knot. He'll come around. Xiao Dandan pouted, still clinging to her hope. Sighing, Peony Overseer said. This girl has lost it. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang was laughing his head off, using this chance to gossip with Xuening Xiang. Ninger, see that? This punk is a womanizer. He got another one just like that. And I can attest to having seen them kissing in public myself. Xie Tianyang laughed inside. Time to cash in on the scheme I cooked back in Drifting Flowers Edifices. Xuening Xiang's eyes were fixed on Zhuo Fan, having a sinking and uncomfortable feeling in her heart. The looks Zhuo Fan got from the audience were odd to say the least. This kid's the bomb. He goes around the Seven Houses, spreading chaos and destruction, while not forgetting to sow the seeds of love. Lady Killer Demonic Dragon is far more appropriate. Steward Zhua, you are a true man of mercy to show such restraint in your travels. Luo Yunchang towered behind Zhuo Fan with a sweet smile. And yet the killing intent in her eyes made her close to a demon. Zhuo Fan shrugged it off. I only did what I had to. The rest was a force of circumstance out of my control. Force of circumstance, you say? Luo Yunchang teased and held his face. Zhuo Fan was caught off guard. What are you doing? Force of circumstance? Grinning, Luo Yunchang looked at him longingly and smooched him. Zhuo Fan felt her soft lips but didn't get to relish in the sensation as Luo Yunchang swished her head away blushing. But the look in her eyes was that of a blissful maiden. Steward Zhuo, good luck. Luo Yunchang batted her eyes at him, then shot a glance towards Drifting Flowers Edifices. Chu Qingqing's eyes were spitting fire right about now. Her teeth crunching so hard even grandmother could hear. Xiao Dandan was having a hard time swallowing down her anger. She was ready to jump at that hussy's throat. Fortunately, Peony Overseer was there to rein her in. Who is she? How dare she force herself on Darling? That's their clan's matter. It has nothing to do with you. Peony Overseer sighed. Xiao Dandan whined, that's my darling. Of course it has. Xie Tianyang found the ever-sweet and cheerful Xuening Xiang wearing a mask of anger and sorrow. This is a cat fight only a man can stir. But why do I get the feeling even my cute and lovely Ninger wants to join the battlefield as well? The audience was even more shocked. That's no demonic dragon, that's a love doctor, I tell you. While actually they felt jealousy and anger, being a skirt chaser is a skill as well. Huangpu Tianyuan twiddled his mustache with a cold eye. Sir Lung, who among these girls is his Achilles heel? They all have a crush on him but he ignores them completely. It's too soon to tell if any of them can be called his weakness. This needs further observation. Lung Wuchang's eyes flashed. Huangpu Tianyuan nodded. Zhuo Fan was out of it for a second there, then saw Luo Yunchang's rosy cheeks and rubbed her head. Young Miss Luo, you're not getting weird on me, are you? You're the weird one. Now get on stage. With a glare, Luo Yunchang pushed him forward. With that charming and touching look, she made quite a number of hearts skip a beat in the crowd. Zhuo Fan shook his head and went on. Just then, two figures wrapped in black energy popped up in front of him. The Blue Expanse City Sun Clan duo. Looking at the two creepy aberrations, Zhuo Fan was stunned. You need something? Hi Zhuo Fan, you can't tell who we are? The man let out an eerie laughter, followed by the girl. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Sorry, I've sinned so much I don't keep track of how many I've wronged. If you're here for revenge, kindly wait your turn. I'll be with you in a second to send you to the afterlife. Hi Zhuo Fan, you're as arrogant as ever. But we aren't the same as before. This time it's you who dies. The man's eyes flashed bloody red. Zhuo Fan nodded, I get it now. I've never seen such ugly freaks in my life. Going through such a nasty makeover, of course I couldn't recognize the current you. The crowd erupted in laughter. Even the girls who were glaring at each other giggled, breaking off their cat fight. Only the duo on stage was pissed. Zhuo Fan, that's enough. Another shout came and two more figures wrapped in black smoke appeared as they landed in front of Zhuofan. They were old men in the fifth layer of Profound Heaven stage. But their faces were as creepy and disturbing as the duos. Zhuofan, you've mocked and derided us ever since we met. It's because of you we look like this. Today we will take your head as revenge. One of the old men said savagely. Luo Yunchang frowned. You came for revenge, but we do not even know how we've offended you. Humph, Yunchang, have you forgotten? Destruction of our clan being cast out, are these not reasons enough? The old man spat. Luo Yunchang was still puzzled, but Zhuofan caught on to something and mocked. Oh, so it's you. Who knew you ended up so pathetic and turned into freaks? Now that you've lost all reason to live, you've come to me for reincarnation? We came to kill you or die together. The old man's mind was set. Snickering, Zhuofan said, even if you came to kill me, you ought to get in line. After I deal with the ones on stage, I don't mind finishing off the lot of you as well. The four nodded. As the saying went, know thyself and your enemy and you'd be ever victorious. It paid to know what the other party was capable of. So the four cleared a path for Zhuofan to go on stage. By now the 20 strong fighters on stage were grave. They had lost the mockery and disdain they had for the bone-tempering Zhuofan. They just found out that he can stand tall like 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and changed their thinking. How were they going to beat such a monster? Heck, not even a first-rate clan could do him in. But since they were on stage already, the fight was unavoidable. They came to esoteric debate in hopes of coming under the wing of the 7 houses after all. This made every fight a chance to show their spirit and worth. A chance they would never miss. Soaring demonic dragon, come. One clan's leader cupped his hands, ready for battle. He was sweating buckets, but that didn't stop him from braving through the fear. Wait. Zhuofan smiled. My Luo clan will definitely enter the final battle and this is too much of a hassle. So in order to move things along, let all clans from 3rd to 1st rate step in. If I lose we walk. If I win we'll go straight to the final battle, fighting with the 7 houses. SSS. A round of gasps echoed. He wants to fight every clan alone? That was just too outrageously cocky. His words only sparked anger in every clan present, while only the 7 houses looked on calmly. They were the only ones who knew all too well of Zhuofan's cunningness and deceit. Chapter 263, A Shocking and Devastating Strike. Chapter 263, A Shocking and Devastating Strike. The clans were outraged at Zhuofan's haughty declaration while also terrified of the one they called Soaring Demonic Dragon. The Profound Heaven expert directing the fight said to Zhuofan, this isn't in the rules. What matters is strength, that's how one earns their right to participate in the final battle. Grinning, Zhuofan stuck out his chin as he turned to the 7 houses, and it's a perfect time to show them who they're up against. Such ego to consider himself the 7 houses' equal. He instantly earned the disdain of the crowd. While those that knew of his exploits with the 7 houses thought, the kid sure is qualified. Huangpu Qingtian stepped forward and watched the stage coldly. The appearance of Regent Estate's eldest young master shocked them all. They soon heard a clear and mighty voice ringing in their ears. The words had such impact they almost had a heart attack. Do as per his wishes. But, Huangpu Qingtian drew his arm over the crowd, I declare that anyone who brings me Zhuofan's head, their clan will become Regent Estate's vassal. SSS. After a round of gasps, a deathly silence ensued. The clans were so overwhelmed they couldn't dare believe their ears. This is God sent. One little head was enough to skip the cruel and deadly esoteric debate's last battle and just come under Regent Estate's wing. What they didn't know, however, was that this dream was closer to a nightmare than reality. But the promise of greatness robbed their minds of what was to come. Their eyes were fixed on Zhuofan, wishing they were already holding his head. All they were waiting for now was that Profound Heaven expert signal and they'd be onto him like wolves. No one even stopped to think that this free meal could be too hard to even chew. Was Zhuofan's title of Soaring Demonic Dragon, on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, for naught? Young Master Huangpu, you're sending them to their deaths. Zhuofan was carefree as he showed an evil grin to Huangpu Qingtian. Huangpu Qingtian responded with the same smile, isn't this what you wanted? Then they laughed. Zhuofan wanted to cause a sensation, all right, to establish Luo clan's position in the upcoming final battle. So the more people that jumped on his sword the better. While Huangpu Qingtian never once believed these second and third-rate clans had any good seeds among them to even harm Zhuofan. He was using them to see Zhuofan's limit and develop contingencies. Each side understood the other's intent flawlessly, all while using each other. It was a win-win scenario. The only losses here would be just your run-of-the-mill rock for brains suicidal morons. The 7 houses noticed this as well, and they were stunned looking at the laughing duo. These two are devious and cruel men of ambition. They gaze far into the horizon. In this esoteric debate, the winner would come from one of them. But as the world wasn't big enough for the two of them, they had to settle their score here and now. Or the world would be plunged into chaos at their hands, ripped apart and burned to cinders. The House Lords watched them with glinting eyes. The esoteric debate was going to revolve around these two monsters, Huangpu Qingtian and Zhuofan, each leading his own faction of houses, something unheard of in the past esoteric debates. The battle for unification was underway and nothing or anyone could stop it. All that was left was to see who had the last laugh. This was something privy to the 7 houses only. Those crickets downstairs only knew how to fight among each other for scraps. The presiding profound heaven expert got his nod of approval and flew up high, soon followed by his clear words. Luo clan's qualifying fight for the final battle begins. Roar. The clans flung themselves like mindless beasts at Zhuofan. They were all spectators turned opportunists. What used to be innocent bystanders were now fired up by the smell of blood and glory. They were all just one gory head away from becoming the foundation of their clan's endless fame. Who could fight the temptation? Perhaps they were lucky enough and would even get it. And the number who thought so was by no means small. As such, the referee's words were marked by a veritable flood of people storming the stage. It was close to 10,000 people, with plenty of bone-tempering and profound heaven experts joining as well. The Wan clan already on stage was overwhelmed. Zhuofan was their opponent, but as things stood, did they even have a snowball's chance in hell to rob the guy's head from the masses? Luck was with them in that regard, being so close and all. Yet when they looked deep into Zhuofan's bottomless gaze, the 20 strong men found themselves frozen. The incoming tide behind them was oblivious, rushing onwards like clueless children swept by the promise of reward as they launched attacks on Zhuofan. The thousands of people swallowed Zhuofan until he was no longer visible. Xuaningxiang was worried. Will Brother Zhuo be fine? Totally. With that punk's luck, not even the 7 houses can do anything to him, let alone these pests. Xie Tianyang comforted Ninger, but he was nonetheless frowning. But isn't thousands of people at once perhaps an overkill? The punk is amazing, sure, but there is also the danger of dying from exhaustion. Why is he waiting them out? Why isn't he thinning the crowd? Hi, no matter how strong, he is all alone against the tide. He is finished. A creepy laughter jarred his ear. The audience, or what was left of it, turned to the creepy man to hear him say, "A shame we are already under Hell Valley and cannot throw our lot with Regent Estate. We would have been in there cashing our luck otherwise." And true. Dong Clan Head nodded. Wanner glared at him. Dong Clan Head shook his head as he looked at the sea of people on the stage. These are cruel words, but that is reality. Regent Estate's bait is too enticing for anyone to resist. Not even the kid would have thought his egotistical words would stir such a reaction. Even if he dies, he only has himself to blame. Dong Clan Head sighed, as did Shui Wanlong and Shui Dingtian. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan watched on, plagued with worry. Dong Qianba and the Shui clan's youths were frowning. But only Xie Tianyang had a mocking smile. Egotistical? Of course he is. But have you ever seen how cautious he is? How could a brash and obnoxious kid ever manage to toy with you, geeky? Xie Tianyang was not one bit worried for Zhuofan's fate. He knew Zhuofan showed cockiness on the outside but never actually did something unless he had a plan set in motion. An invisible ripple spawned in the center of the stage, swallowing it whole. The force of it had Huangpu Tianyuan squinting. He watched as the tide of people on the stage had blank stares before collapsing. All the contestants dropped on the ground one at a time, with the crazed and thirsty greed frozen on their faces. Those outside the stage stopped in their charge, watching the stage tensely. Zhuofan touched the buff guy in front with his finger and let him collapse. The ground around him was littered with bodies, not that he cared, stepping over them in his conquering march. Like a king, he was stepping on the bodies of his enemies as he took his throne. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan were overjoyed while Dong Clan Head, Shui Clan Head were shell-shocked. What just happened? What's wrong with them? The shock on everyone's faces was palpable. Zhuofan was uncaring, looking over the leftovers, still standing and cocking his finger with a nasty grin. There's still 1,000 left. Come and take my head if you want it. Swallowing dryly, they were now faltering. Their previous high had passed, as did their courage. The sight of an evil and grinning Zhuofan in the middle of thousands of bodies tended to do that to a feeble mind. Killing with intent. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes trembled. His quiet voice spread everywhere among the deathly silence. In an instant, everyone looked at Zhuofan in shock. Isn't that a radiant stage expert's ability? Why is a bone-tempering cultivator wielding it? The fear in their eyes couldn't be more pronounced. This was why so many people dropped lifeless without even a chance to fight back. The one that killed them was on par with a radiant stage expert. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.